All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. David Patrick Carey with Church of the Eternal Logos. And today we have a bit of a solemn stream today. We're going to be discussing the very prominent, at least in the 2010s, fitness influencer, Connor Murphy, who kind of lost his mind and was getting into ayahuasca and psychedelics, especially during the lockdown in 2020. And I never had any personal interaction with him, but I covered this topic back in 2021 when he was essentially going through a psychotic break, and he flagged my stream. So if anybody was with me back in the day, I was actually covering some of his stuff because, as you know, I have a long history in psychedelics. I did a lot of that stuff in my 20s, and I was warning people about the spiritual dangers and how it opens you up to demonic possession. Unfortunately for Connor, he exhibited all the symptoms that I would expect of someone who essentially began to be possessed, at least in minor degrees. And that sort of continued. Somewhere around 2024, he ends up moving to Thailand, and he sort of transitioned into a Looksmaxxer. And he was actually one of the inspirations behind Clavicular. Clavicular stated openly that Connor Murphy was sort of one of his inspirations when he was younger. And Connor Murphy had a YouTube channel of like 2 million people, and he was probably one of the biggest fitness influencers in the 2010s. And unfortunately, just a few days ago on July 7th, he passed away. He was reportedly going through another psychotic break. We're going to be covering his entire life today. And really, it's kind of a sensitive subject because I was debating whether I wanted to, because the man did die. He passed away. But I think it's really important as a warning for other people, and we can watch and learn aspects from Connor Murphy's journey as why psychedelics, new age spirituality can be really, really dangerous. Not just because you could hurt yourself with these things, but literally they can take over your mind. They can control your life. And ever since 2020, Connor Murphy believed that he was God. He claimed that he was the same thing as Jesus Christ. In fact, he even tried to start his own cult. During the point in which he was having these psychotic breaks, at least allegedly on camera, he was drinking his own urine and semen and even consumed his own feces at one point. And we're told, and I'm going to go over the whole story today, that the night that he ended up dying, which he drowns in a lake outside of his house in Thailand, which is a really beautiful mansion, actually. And he ends up destroying it. He vandalized basically every room in the house. He claims that his girlfriend was sleeping. She said that he was having a sort of manic episode the night before. He didn't sleep for 24 hours. And then started basically throwing paint and destroying the entire house while he was going through this manic episode. Tries to leave the house and go. Some reports say he was trying to get a car, like an Uber, to leave the property, and the security guards that I guess monitor this entire neighborhood were preventing him. He started to roll around on the ground. He was praying in the street while traffic was coming. They called the police. And while the police came, and when he saw the lights of the police cars as approaching the property, he fled and dove into the lake that is behind his house. And he was essentially trying to swim away from the police. That led to him getting exhausted and drowned. And they were able to recover his body about 30 minutes after the last video footage. Apparently, a neighbor was filming it because he was making all types of noises, and they recorded him sort of flailing around in the water. And then you see him go under, and he essentially drowns. And so it's really a tragic story. And he was only 32 years old. He was, as I said, we'll be covering his life and aspects of his really decline, because in the 2010s, like 2015 through 2017, he was probably the biggest fitness influencer on YouTube. And just 1 year, he grew his YouTube channel to like 2 million subscribers. And he talks about how he acquired wealth, fame, sexual attraction from women. And it didn't satisfy him, and it led him into doing ayahuasca. And there's conflicting reports whether he went to Peru or not. Many people have said that he did go to Peru and participated in some type of shamanic ceremony. And so the reason I wanted to cover it is because I see a lot of my own journey in Connor Murphy. As you guys know, during my 20s, I was very much into Eastern mysticism. I mean, I went to China twice, studying Mandarin Chinese, because I was very much interested in Buddhism and Eastern mysticism, Taoism. And it was during that time that I started to get into psychedelics, watching Terrence McKenna, Timothy Leary, Robert Anton Wilson, Alan Watts, all these different people, and essentially adopted very much of a spiritual worldview that was akin to what Connor Murphy was trying to do, and even trying to establish his own cult at one point. And ironically for me, all of that culminated in me doing a lot of psychedelic substances. I've did DMT, LSD, psilocybin, ayahuasca. And at one point, I remember I was living in Berkeley, California, and that was one of the excitements for me moving to California. Was Berkeley was kind of the, if you will, the capital of the sort of counterculture of the 1960s. And I admired aspects of the counterculture and the sort of psychedelic movement that Timothy Leary sort of pioneered throughout the 60s. The Summer of Love, Woodstock, 1969, Haight-Ashbury. I was living in the Bay Area, so I could literally go to San Francisco and see these historical sites where people are dropping acid, and famous musicians, Jimi Hendrix, the Beatles, all that different stuff. And for me, at one point, while I was very engrossed in this new age spirituality, this sort of spiritual but not religious world that Connor Murphy was himself promoting, I remember I was taking psychedelics. This was specifically LSD and psilocybin in my little studio apartment in Berkeley. And I contacted entities and met strange things and heard strange voices during all that period. And at one point I thought there's got to be more to it. At that point, I had access to all the psychedelics that I could want. And it was right on the heels of doing my PhD course that you guys have heard me talk about, where I was studying the history and theology of the Eastern Orthodox Church. And why did I even get into that course? Well, it had to do with a book right here, The Psychedelic Gospels by Dr. Jerry Brown. And in this book, The Psychedelic Gospels, sociologist Dr. Jerry Brown highlights these very unique frescoes that exist in Western Europe that insinuated that the original Eucharist of Christianity was some type of inebriating substance. And that's on the heels of a theory by a Dead Sea Scrolls scholar named John Marco Allegro, who wrote a book in the 90s after Qumran and Nag Hammadi, all this stuff was uncovered. And while he translated aspects of the Dead Sea Scrolls, he claimed that Jesus Christ was a mushroom. And me being deeply indebted to the psychedelic movement, in fact, my previous YouTube channel, it was called Fractal Universe, Youniverse, like your universe. And we're going to hear Connor Murphy talking about his spirituality, even weeks before his passing, in which his transformation, whatever occurred during the 2020s, was still with him. He still believed these same ideas. And I myself was promoting that stuff. That's how I was making a living. Why I also had a job in the registrar's office at the university where I was getting my PhD, and then making psychedelic YouTube videos where I would create visual graphics with audios of Terrence McKenna or Robert Anton Wilson or Timothy Leary. And I was basically an apologist for that worldview. And I read this book right here thinking and believing that potentially psychedelics were the origin of all religions, that it was sort of the leading edge of the religious experience. And all religions had some type of connection back to inebriating ecstatic experiences. And it's very much part of the psychedelic spiritual worldview where ecstasy, whether it be the Eleusinian mysteries or the mysterious god Soma in the Vedic religion, that drugs and psychedelics were basically the basis for the religious experience. And then men codified doctrines and dogmas and institutions onto these experiences to form world religions. And I was getting my PhD in religious studies, and I sort of adopted this worldview. And this is one of the reasons why I was so interested in Western esoteric traditions. So my PhD in religious studies, the kind of two areas that my scholarship emerged from is new religious movements and Western esoteric traditions. Now you can see why that would make sense at a time in which I very much was into psychedelic spirituality. Well, I wrote a research paper on this exact book, and I came to a different conclusion that the Eucharist was a psychedelic mushroom or inebriating substance. I came to the conclusion because when you go through this book and you'll find, for example, these churches in Western Europe, like right here, this is Plain Corault Chapel. This is in France. And this chapel was built by the Knights Hospitallers. So very much part of the Crusades. And we can get into the Knights Templars. And there's a lot of speculative theories about potential Gnostic spirituality being involved in the Templars. But this particular church, which still exists, although I think it's like a UNESCO site now, you can see it depicts Adam and Eve pulling from what appears to be some type of mushroom. And the Amanita muscaria mushroom, if anybody's played, Super Mario Brothers, it's the red mushroom with white dots on it. And I did research into this book, and you can find this is another church right here in France, Saint Martin de Vic, and it depicts Christ. Well, this is the purification of Isaiah's lips here, and you can see God handing him what appears to be a mushroom cap. And then you can see Christ's entry into Jerusalem here, where he's on the donkey, and you can see this guy holding mushrooms and handing them to Christ. You can see this is a better depiction right there of the purification of Isaiah's lips there. And if you go to that church and you walk around, you'll see this is the Towers of Jerusalem. And you see these guys cutting down what appears to be mushrooms, a depiction of the Last Supper. You can see all these mushrooms cut up, and you can see that this is what is being depicted as the consuming item of the apostles. Well, this book goes into, Roslin Chapel in Scotland. And then that gets back to, again, the theories of the Knights Templars and how they were accepted by Robert the Bruce. And that same Sinclair clan, that family that was part of the Knights Templars, built Roslin Chapel. And Roslin Chapel has all these strange sort of esoteric symbols within it. And again, it goes on. This is the Psalter of Canterbury, and it shows God creating plants, and it seems to all just be mushrooms. There's another one in Germany where you find anatomically correct mushrooms. This is in the ceiling of St. Michael's Church in Hildesheim, Germany. And you can see this is the Jesse tree. This is Adam and Eve. And you see what appears to be an Amanita muscaria and them pulling from it. So I did deep research into this book, and I came to the conclusion that all of the pictorial evidence that is displayed exists between the years 900 and basically the late 1200s. So before the year 1300, which is when the Inquisition begins, when the Catholic Church essentially squashed the Albigensian. It's called the Albigensian Crusade, and they were Cathars. They were Gnostics. And I dove into research and saw that these other Gnostic groups, so for example, the Bogomils from Bulgaria, migrated to Western Europe and sort of set up shop during that time. And these Gnostic groups were persecuted by the Byzantine Empire. And so you find these inebriating rituals through the Paulicians in Armenia, the Tondrakians, another Gnostic cult in Armenia. And so essentially the Byzantines were forcing these people to stop their rites, convert to Orthodoxy, or they'd kill them. And because of that, these Gnostic groups around, again, throughout the Byzantine Empire, essentially fled to the edges of the empire. And that's why so many of them ended up residing in Armenia. So I came to the conclusion that this was a historically contextualized phenomenon, and it was not the origins of the Eucharist. But one of the theories that was put forth was that Russia is a mushroom-philic society, and that when you look at the Slavic language, for example, they have way more words for mushrooms. And R. Gordon Wasson, who was the first person to essentially promote psychedelics in the Western world, in 1957, he writes an article in Life magazine about Maria Sabina, this shamaness in Mexico. And this is really the first instance in Western civilization where people are hearing about shamanism and these psychedelic substances. And so R. Gordon Wasson and his wife, Valentina Pavlovna, who is Russian, wrote this book, Mushrooms, Russia, and History, arguing that you can find Slavic cultures are way more mushroom-philic as opposed to German and English societies, which they deemed as mushroom phobic because they have such limited terms to refer to those things. Such as English, we have toadstool, fungus, and mushroom, basically 3 words to refer to the entire mycology of mushrooms, where in Slavic traditions, there's all these words, and it's common for grandmothers to take their daughters out to the forest and teach them which mushrooms you can use. Well, I did a research paper on that, and that's when I got exposed to Orthodoxy. And when I got exposed to Orthodoxy, I was a non-believer, but we read the church fathers, we read modern theologians, and that's when I came across this logos theology that I referred to in regards to the sort of metaphysical, if we want to use philosophical terms to express Orthodoxy. And I found it so captivating. And I remember saying to the professor of that course that, man, you know, I'm non-religious, but if I was to choose a religion, this Orthodoxy is so captivating and intellectually satisfying that I probably would choose that. And that led to, again, me taking these LSD and psilocybin trips in my apartment in Berkeley after I had taken that course. And I came to the conclusion that all these things that I liked about psychedelic spirituality, such as fractals, sacred geometry, the cymatics, the idea that words and auditory vibrations have geometric patterns in them, that all of that made more sense in an Orthodox worldview because Orthodoxy provided an actual metaphysics to articulate all this stuff. And that the idea when you take psychedelics, and we're going to see this with Connor Murphy today when we go through some of these videos, is that he's going to be claiming that, you know, everyone's the same thing. He thinks that the self, or what you call the self, is God, and that we're all God, and that the God that created the universe is us, and that we've temporarily forgotten this to go on the mystery of life. And this is very much Alan Watts's theology. And Alan Watts was a teacher of Father Seraphim Rose before he converted to Orthodoxy. And this was all in the Bay Area as well, exactly where I was. And I remember taking these trips and coming to the conclusion that everything that I liked about psychedelics and psychedelic spirituality actually made sense in an Orthodox framework, but you got to give up the drugs because Orthodoxy is not some inebriating, ecstatic experience. So that led to me eventually putting those things away and attending Orthodox churches. And I went to Holy Virgin Cathedral in San Francisco. And anybody who's been there knows that it's an incredibly beautiful cathedral. And it's where the reposed body of St. John of Shanghai, St. John of San Francisco resides. And I remember seeing there and going and seeing his uncorrupted body and spending time at liturgy when standing there for 3+ hours. I remember one of my morning liturgies that I attended was a hierarchical liturgy there, and it's a ROCOR church. And it was like 3.5 hours long. My feet were sore from standing. This was new for me. And I remember I went to another church there in Berkeley. And when I went to the church, the priest had known my name before I went in. And it was because one of the PhD students that I was going to school with, he was Serbian and he was Orthodox. And I had been attending services with him in San Francisco, and he told the priest there that I was going to attend. And so I didn't know that he had told them. So I walk into this Orthodox church for the very first time, and the priest knows me by name. And I'm like, what the heck? How does that happen? So I stand in the back during the entire liturgical process, the service. And when I go up to eventually venerate the cross, I was very reluctant to kiss the priest's hand. I'm an American man, we're about individualism. We don't submit to other men, the whole thing about King George and the American Revolution. Well, I went ahead and did it. And the priest said, he grabbed this kid and said, hey, can you show Patrick around the church? That turned out to be Father Josiah Trenum's son. And he was an undergraduate student at Berkeley. And I had been watching Father Josiah Trenum's content on YouTube during this whole process after taking psychedelics. And so that was something that was really profound for me. And eventually, the last time I took psychedelics was actually in an ayahuasca ceremony in Joshua Tree, California. And I've spoke about it publicly before, but I was with my godson, Dr. Michael Moeller. And Dr. Michael Moeller and I formed a friendship because he followed my previous YouTube channel where I promoted psychedelics and made all these videos. And he too was a guy that was into fitness and working out like myself, and also really into this new age spirituality and taking psychedelics and going to retreats and stuff like that. And at that point, I decided, because I saw John Searle, arguably the most famous philosopher at that time, still living at that time, he was fired from UC Berkeley, and he'd been tenured since the 1960s. He has famous dialogues with Derrida and Foucault, and he was an analytic philosopher, and he got fired because he asked a woman out to dinner while he was still a tenured professor at Berkeley. And this was right at the height of the Me Too era. This is 2017, 2018. And John Searle, who I admired as, this aspiring academic to get his PhD, he got fired. They broke his tenureship because this woman claimed it was sexual harassment. He didn't touch her. He didn't grope her. He didn't kiss her. He asked her out to dinner, and she took that as some type of sexual advance that she didn't find appropriate, I guess. And they fired John Searle. And he came and taught one of my philosophy courses on the philosophy of mind and personhood. And it kind of coalesced with neuroscience. And I was working with a woman who was actually on my PhD committee. It was her course, and he came and lectured. And after talking with John Searle, I came to the conclusion, I can't devote my life to becoming a PhD at a university, because they can fire you at any time that they want. And I realized, my gosh, this whole dream about wearing my tweed jackets and carrying my briefcase and going and telling the students when my office hours were, this is what I was aspiring to, that sort of that academic, that professor on the university campus. And I realized that's not going to work, because my heart was shifting. This is, again, 2017 and 18. This is the height of the Jordan Peterson phenomenon. It's at the end of 2016 into 2017 that Jordan Peterson refused to use the transgender pronouns on his campus. And this was also the era of the first Trump administration. And being more conservative was now the counterculture. And I was there in Berkeley, California as a heterosexual white man, and I was feeling it. The professors, the students telling me about the injustices just because I exist. And my political orientation shifted. My values shifted. I came from the Midwest, from Indiana. Me getting into psychedelics and promoting New Age, I thought I was the leftist. Then I go to Berkeley and I see what leftism really is. If you guys remember, Berkeley had invited Ben Shapiro and Milo Yiannopoulos to speak on campus. This is in 2017. I was living in Berkeley at this point. And there was this massive protest. In fact, there was a Berkeley professor that smashed a bike lock on one of the students' head there to listen to Ben Shapiro and Milo. And just a few weeks later, they had a gay pride parade there in Berkeley. And I saw for the first time people promoting MAPS, minor attracted persons. It's actually PDF stuff, pedos. And I couldn't believe it. And I even brought this up, and I saw people in the PhD program defending it. And so in light of all this stuff, while still promoting psychedelics, my life was shifting. My values were shifting. I was becoming more aware of the inconsistencies of my own worldview. And this led to essentially my spiritual journey. And the last time I did psychedelics, I was kind of lost because I knew that I was going to move home after my coursework, and I didn't know exactly what to do. I didn't know what the purpose of my life was. And so I went and participated in this ayahuasca ceremony with Dr. Michael Moeller. And I met him there. We drove to Joshua Tree, and I saw people get possessed. And this is what caused me to create this YouTube channel right here, because it was during this experience in which I basically was taking the ayahuasca. It was a 2-night ceremony. And even during the first night, I did 3 cups. So that's the most that the shaman, I mean, we had a shamaness from Hawaii, would give you. And they play these ikaros, these songs, while people get inebriated and go into these altered states. And I remember taking it. And what happened to me was the colors started coming on, the visuals started coming on, the auditory hallucinations started coming on, and I'm laying back with eyes closed. I hear noises. I look around. I see a woman who thinks she's a jaguar, or I see people speaking in tongues, really gibberish. And I'm like, what the heck? So I lay back down, and what happened to me was the full realization that I needed to become Orthodox. The first thing was that Jesus Christ was a historical person, and that Jesus Christ as God incarnate must be true, because it's the only way you can have an objective standard for judgment in the afterlife. You can look at all these. I was a religious studies scholar, so I was very aware of all the different world religions and some of their soteriology and their eschatology. And I was thinking, so many of religions have to do with some type of judgment. Even in Egyptian mythology, you have Anubis, the dog-headed deity, who's a psychopomp who weighs your soul against the feather and to see whether you're going to, go to the good afterlife or the bad afterlife. And this visualization I had was that only in Christianity does judgment by God make sense for us to enter eternity, because he entered historical space and time. The second realization was the privilege that I had, because we were being told about white privilege, this and that all the time, was that mine had to do with the virtues and the values of my grandparents, of my parents, and this descending value system that my family comes from. And because they were good people, that was my inheritance. And I looked around, and what I felt was being told to me is, look at the trauma of these people around you. You don't have that trauma. And then it was told me it's time to build, because all that previous YouTube channel promoting psychedelics and putting all that stuff out there was essentially me repackaging other people's ideas. And so I opened my eyes, and the ayahuasca stopped working. And this was the first time. And I know people who've psychedelics who have done drugs before, they may say, well, that's because, you had probably been taking. No, I hadn't done any psychedelics in months. My brain had been totally reset. It's not like I had a bunch of tryptamine, floating around in my brain. The whole experience just shut off after what I felt was Christ telling me, you need to stop this. You're in the wrong place. Continue the journey towards orthodoxy. That's where you're going to find your answers. That's why I created this YouTube channel and call it Church of the Eternal Logos, because it's the logos. It's the metaphysical and the philosophical that brought me to orthodoxy. Even the second night, when I did 3 more cups of ayahuasca, it never turned on. It never worked. And that was, for me, the sign that God was telling me, this is the wrong direction. And I've seen people get possessed. And I think, looking back now, and as we're going to go through Connor Murphy's story, I thank God that didn't happen to me. And the demons pry on trauma. This is one of the reasons we've talked about satanic ritual abuse. We've talked about these cults and why is PDF stuff so popular, because the demons need to abuse children and create trauma so that there's a recidivism rate and so that there's an opening for them to exploit in the person. And I was very lucky. I didn't have a bunch of trauma I grew up with. I had great parents. I had a great family. And when I look then, as we go through Connor Murphy's stuff, I just see so much of where I could have gone and where he eventually went and how his life ended and how the spiritual worldview he had led to essentially his own downfall, and that the taking of drugs and psychedelics never stopped for him. And that's why I wanted to do today's stream. I want to be respectful to Connor Murphy and his family. We're going to be watching stuff that's kind of hard to stomach. We're going to be watching stuff that's going to be easy to laugh at, and I'm sure we will laugh at it. But also remember, this guy lost his life. And I believe the guy was demonically possessed. And I've watched so many videos of people who knew him and recounting Connor Murphy's story. And the one thing they don't talk about is demonic possession. Oh, he just had a mental breakdown. Well, why, in Orthodoxy, what is, a psychosis? What is mental illness? Mental illness is all tied with demonic influence in our life. And that's why I wanted to present today's stream, is that this is going to be talking about Connor Murphy from an Orthodox perspective. And I thank God that he pulled me out of the world that I used to be in. And I haven't done that stuff ever since. And I don't see any need to. And I see consistently, and people I knew that did that, where they went. And that's why I'm so thankful for, again, Dr. Michael Moeller, that he became Orthodox through me by that experience. We went to the ayahuasca ceremony together. And I told him the night after it happened what my experience was and how the drugs didn't work and how this was crazy and it was confounding, and that I really feel like God's telling me I got to stop all this and I got to pursue this Orthodoxy thing, which he wasn't aware of. He wasn't fully knowledgeable about. He grew up Catholic and he was New Age at the time. And I was talking about Father Josiah, and I remember watching a Jay Dyer video during that period for the first time. And Jay did a video on, I think, God, like logos and numbers, or God's relationship to numbers. I forget exactly what the title was. And it made me realize that the metaphysics, my worldview, the coherency of my worldview, the presuppositions, my ability to philosophically justify, again, philosophical justification wasn't there, that the worldview itself was nonsensical. And that led me to create this YouTube channel. And I moved home in September of 2019, and I began producing 3 videos a week on this YouTube channel. And I've been basically doing that ever since. And so now it's July 10th, 2026. And I see where my life has gone. And now I'm married, and I see the blessings and the providence that God has bestowed on me. And I just want to use Connor Murphy as an example for people that this stuff is all real. Spiritual warfare is real. The dangers of psychedelics are real, especially at high doses. You do go into an altered state. And what psychedelics do is dissolve boundaries. Terrence McKenna always talked about this as a wonderful thing, because the dissolution of boundaries for him was a way to erode the patriarchy of Western civilization and the influence of Christianity to a more shamanistic tribal world. And I've been doing everything to push back against this on this YouTube channel. That's why I promote the stuff I do. And I promote traditional masculinity, and I promote orthodoxy, and I promote sobriety, because these are the things that we need. The dissolution of boundaries, phenomenologically, meaning at an experiential level, does mean that you're going to think, oh, wow, we're all connected. We're all the same person. The self inside me is the self inside you. Christianity says, no, Christ says to love your neighbor as yourself, not that your neighbor is yourself. The difference is a recognition of personhood. And this is what Connor Murphy was on really a crusade to dissolve. Even when we watch some of these videos in the last few weeks of his life, he was arguing that, everyone's the same self, that personhood, your ego is an illusion, and that he had created all these alter egos. And the way that psychedelics dissolve these boundaries is they open you up to a noetic realm. What are angels and demons? They're noetic entities. Now, we, from an Orthodox perspective, are a tripartite composition. We have a body, soul, and a nous. And what the nous is the eye of the heart, the eye of the soul. And what the nous is our mental faculties. But we don't divide the mind from the body in such a distinct way that Western Christianity, but especially post-Descartes, had done. Descartes truly separated the inside world from the outside world. In Orthodoxy, we believe that the noetic faculties is part of the ways in which we're made in the image of God, and that angels and demons, how they differ from us is they don't have physical bodies, but they are noetic entities, and they can have these noetic capabilities. And that's why spiritual warfare first begins in the imagination. And when you take psychedelics, especially at high doses, because at a minor dose, you know, it may just be fun for people. It's not going to open you up to demonic influence like really high doses or an ayahuasca ceremony will. And what it does is there is a barrier. There is a curtain between the non-local spiritual reality that's all around us and temporal space and time. And when you take psychedelics, it dissolves that. And that's why the demonic entities are able to influence you. They're able to give you strange ideas. They're able to alter your personality. They're able to convince you of things that aren't going to be true. And that happened to me when I did it. And I would push them away. You know, things that I believed would be true didn't come to be true. I had an example, and maybe I'll do a stream just recounting, you know, my journey through psychedelics and stuff like that. But there's an example of which I smoked DMT one time with a friend during my master's degree at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. And I was convinced, and I had to apply for PhD programs. And I was convinced I was going to get into the University of Chicago and this was going to happen. And it didn't happen. And you're going to see this same exact stuff with Connor Murphy. I lived through all that. The difference is I recognize through the grace of God that this stuff is demonic and it is a way to pull people away. And the irony is we're going to see with Connor Murphy is that psychedelics don't dissolve your ego. If anything, they inflate your ego. And that's what from him being a aesthetic fitness influencer in the 2015 through 17 era, 2018, into then him getting ingratiated to ayahuasca. And he began taking it every 2 hours for months. This is when he had his psychotic break. And he believed that he was God. He said blasphemous things about Jesus Christ. And in fact, just weeks before he died, he was blaspheming the Holy Spirit and was mocking the Holy Ghost and was claiming himself to be Christ and was laughing at Christians for believing in the resurrection and the miracles of Christ because it's all just Christ consciousness, right? It's just about conscious evolution. That's what he was arguing. And this, in my opinion, as an Orthodox Christian, are evidence of demonic influence. This is a form of demonic possession. This isn't just a psychotic break. I believe all psychological illnesses are influenced by demonic entities. And we have books talking about this. I literally have a book on patristic psychology stating the same thing, that one of the differences between bodily illness and psychological illness is that psychological illness is more easily influenced by demons. So today we're going to be watching a lot of stuff. And some of it may be very vulgar. For example, I want to show you guys just a live stream that Connor did just, I think it was a couple months ago or maybe it was a year ago, where he slept with a man's wife. And they're on this podcast in Thailand where a lot of debaucherous things happen in Thailand. And literally bragging about this guy giving him his wife. They did a whole podcast talking about it. And talking about what he's going to do with her and what the guy doesn't want to do. And we're going to be seeing the night before he ends up dying that it looks like he's high on shrooms or some type of psychedelic. You can see the dilated pupils. You can see him acting erratic. And to me, this is indicative of, again, demonic influence. And the more we sin, the more we open ourselves up to demonic influence. So it's not just psychedelics. Psychedelics phenomenologically break the barrier that holds us within time and space and the noetic entities within a realm of eternity. And you enter into that realm. And that's why you do encounter entities and you do get strange ideas and you can come back with knowledge that you couldn't have had before. And Connor Murphy believed all this stuff. So with that being said, guys, We're going to be journeying through the life of Connor Murphy. We're going to be talking about his tragic death. We're going to be seeing how he rose to fame. We're going to be seeing how he got crazy, and I argue initially possessed through his usage of ayahuasca, and how this continued all the way until he became obsessed with Looksmaxxing. And we've talked about clavicular and Looksmaxxing in recent streams, and how Looksmaxxing is very homoerotic. It's gay. It's an obsession with one's physical appearance, which there's nothing wrong with looking good. But these guys are going to an extreme level, to the point that Connor Murphy was injecting himself with gold. One of his close friends who did a video, his name's Tony Huge, who I'm not familiar with, but I watched his video talking about Connor, claiming that Connor was accessing superhuman abilities, and that he was injecting himself with a syringe of gold. And he believed that it was going to contribute to a higher electrical grounding and a conductivity through his body, and that he was going to become a professional golfer and all this different stuff. So anyways, that's what we're going to be getting into today. And that is why I wanted to cover this now, because in many ways, my life could have ended up like Connor Murphy, but I chose a different path, and I chose Orthodoxy. And I'm convinced that Orthodoxy is the answer. And that's why this YouTube channel exists. So smash that like, guys. Thank you all so much for being here. Let me catch up with the chat real quick. All right. So I'm going to pull up the article we're going to read, but we're not going to read it yet. I'll go back. Thank you very much, Gregory. Throws in $5. God bless you, brother. If you appreciate this content, if you'd like to support my work, please super chat, send in a question or comment using Streamlabs or Dono Chat. Those links are in the video description. Or if you prefer to use YouTube, use YouTube. We're trying to reach a 30 super chat goal today on YouTube. So if you are able to contribute and want to appreciate supporting my work, I just want to say thank you guys very much. And if you're feeling generous, please gift some Kodo Crew memberships in the chat. So thank you very much, Gregory. Nuguzi, thank you very much for coming a Kodo Crew member. God bless you. Paul throws in 5, says, how's it going, fellow Hoosier? It's going well. It's going well. Paul throws in another one. Thank you very much, Paul. He says, shrooms brought DPH to Orthodoxy. Well, not exactly. Not exactly. I would say Christ brought me to Orthodoxy. But Christ had to bring me out of psychedelic spirituality to do so. And that's why I feel like I have a background to really talk about Connor Murphy, especially in the orthosphere, because I'm kind of known as the former psychedelic guy. And with my experience, I want to share my insights and really warn people, because that's the goal of today's stream, is to use the tragic downfall and life of Connor Murphy as an example for other people, especially young people, to avoid these things, because there's so much online. And I'm not saying there isn't, there's John Hopkins studies about MDMA and psilocybin being used for PTSD. And I don't doubt that that stuff's true. But the reason that stuff is true is because psychedelics dissolve boundaries. And so if you have a traumatic experience from the Iraq War, and you are reliving that trauma over and over, psychedelics and the dissolution of boundaries will help you confront that and eventually emotionally get over it. But we see on Joe Rogan and all these other places where, it's promoted in a way where people think there's very little negative side effects. And I'm here to say, no, you don't realize what you're opening yourself up to. You don't realize that it truly does dissolve the curtain between this world and that world. And once you're in that world, you play by their game, their rules and their games. I just posted a video of what's his name? The comic book guy. Man, I'm blanking on his name. It's from the video, The Famous Writer Who Sold His Soul. The Scottish guy. Hold on. Let me tell you in just a second. His name is, anyways, the problem is magic is real, but what do you exchange? Let's see. It's going to bother me if I don't come up with his name. Grant Morrison. My gosh, I couldn't freaking remember. Grant Morrison. So Grant Morrison himself was getting into DMT and claims that he contacted aliens and all this different stuff. And now he's transgender. I mean, go look at Grant Morrison. Go look at his life. And the same thing was true with Connor Murphy, as we're going to see today. He experimented, according to himself, with homosexuality. He had videos during a psychotic break of going on the beach and kissing guys to try to break down, I guess, the stigma of homosexuality and stuff like that. This is what these drugs do. And the same thing is true with Grant Morrison. He thinks he's transgender. Connor Murphy even admitted in a podcast, we're not going to be watching it, but he talked about how his interest in ladyboys in Thailand. Now, he supposedly had a girlfriend, but he was talking openly about sleeping with ladyboys in Thailand, and that sometimes he had trouble sleeping with women because he was confused about his sexuality. I'm telling you, those are demonic influences from the use of psychedelics. Nectarios throws in 5, says, got to drop off for now, but looking forward to watching this later. Thank you very much, Nectarios, for the support. God bless, brother. And XX Lockstep throws in 5, says, I've dissolved my ego through psychedelics. I am now better than everyone else, every psychonaut. That's exactly it. And we're going to see the same thing with Connor Murphy. While he tells you he dissolved his ego, he's going to tell you that he's God. And this is such a common phenomenon. Ed Peters throws in 5, no comment. Thank you very much, Ed. God bless you. So let me first, this was an article, but instead of just reading through the article, I'm going to play a video for you guys. So this is Connor Murphy. Connor Murphy, you may have remembered some of his fitness videos from 2015 through 18. They went viral before being viral was the goal of every content creator. And he, had in his final video, we're going to see him, what appears to be on psychedelic drugs, having some type of psychotic break. Alex Eubank was friends with him and commented. Alex Eubank is now currently looking into Orthodoxy and God. He's also a YouTube fitness content creator, and hopefully he does. And so instead of just reading this whole article to you, we're going to go through everything and really see what happened to Connor Murphy. And I may stop it and comment, but without reading the whole article, we're just going to watch the videos. So check this out.
After Connor Murphy's life ended in Thailand, one of his friends tried to explain the strangest part of the story. YouTuber Tony Huge said Connor had been experimenting with gold, not wearing it or selling it or designing new jewelry though. According to Tony, Connor believed that if gold could get into every cell in his body, it might change his physical abilities, his consciousness, and even his connection to the metaphysical world. Tony claimed Connor had just injected a very large amount of gold. He also said friends had warned him and they were nervous about his behavior. They thought it was dangerous. But Connor was not an ordinary fitness influencer by then. He was a man who had spent years turning himself into a character. And when people told him he was acting strangely, Tony said Connor would answer, "I'm just acting. Calm down. It's an act." By July 2026, Connor was no longer just the shirtless prankster who had once dominated fitness YouTube. He was deep in Looksmaxxing, biohacking, spiritual ideas, extreme self-experimentation, and an unfinished documentary about that world. Then, in Samut Prakan, Thailand, police responded to reports of a man behaving erratically at a luxury rental property. Witnesses said Connor entered a nearby lake, swam until he appeared exhausted, and disappeared beneath the surface. In this video, I will share Connor's full story and reveal the disturbing truth about his world. Here we go.
And let me say here, I don't remember what all this video, I watched so many videos in prep for today, but Connor Murphy was actually an incredibly intelligent guy. So I was just looking into his background, and he was born in like 1994. Again, he died at the age of 32 just a few days ago. He actually attended college at Southwestern University, and he majored in computational mathematics and economics. And we're going to watch videos because Tony Huge, one of his better friends here, who's also a Looksmaxxer in Thailand, who interestingly enough had a relationship with Leo in Longevity, another sort of Looksmaxxer, and he was really popular in like the early 2020s about how to extend your penis length and stuff like that. He was bipolar, and he had some type of break, and he ended up dying in Thailand as well. And so Tony Huge, and I'm not accusing Tony Huge of anything. I'm just saying this is the community. And androgenic, we're going to see androgenic today. The guy that was, with clavicular and a handful of videos when we did the stream on clavicular recently, that this thing kind of happens. But Connor Murphy in particular could like turn it on and off. You'll see. And that's why he always talked about how he's acting, right? This is an act. And I believe, based on all the videos I watched and prepped today, that he was convinced that the idea of the ego or the person was an illusion. Again, the Sanskrit idea, the Hindu idea of Maya, that the world is an illusion, that the self, the idea of your own ego and personality is an illusion, and that Atman, your soul, is really Brahman, a piece of God. This is basic Hinduism. And that when he got through all this psychosis from all this ayahuasca use and drug usage, that he could create his own personalities. And I'm going to show you in more recent, once we get through this video, like some of these personalities, these alter egos he's created. And he was making content about, he had an alter ego for his Looksmaxxing. He had an alter ego for his golfing. He had, and to me, this is a form of bipolar schizophrenia, which I think is demonic influence. Now, I can't prove that he was demonically possessed. I'm only stating this as an Orthodox Christian who has a large background during my 20s of doing high-dose psychedelic experiences, and that him being able to turn, because Tony Huge was talking about how he would act erratic, or he would be on drugs, and then he would confront him, and then he would just snap out, and it would be like he was normal again. He was back to normal, and then they would continue forward. And I'm going to show you videos in which, for example, one of the last interviews he did, and I think it's like right here. Let me see. Right here. This is just a week before he died. This is Connor Murphy, and this is with a guy named Your Mate Tom. Now, some of you guys may remember I did a interview with Your Mate Tom back in like 2021, 2022. Your Mate Tom is a psychonaut. He's from Australia. And at one point, he was very interested in looking at Orthodoxy. And we did a stream that's still up on my YouTube channel. If you look up, Church of the Eternal Logos, Your Mate Tom. Your Mate Tom has almost 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. And he's kind of a filmmaker. And Your Mate Tom is a very nice guy. I remember talking with him back in the day. We went back privately after the interview we had. I sent him a link to get his first Orthodox study Bible. And it seems like he's kind of fallen out of any interest into Orthodoxy and seems to still be promoting or talking about psychedelics. So, but I will say Your Mate Tom is a very nice guy, and I wish him and his wife the absolute best. I haven't talked with him in years, so I don't know if they're still together, but God bless him. And Your Mate Tom was doing a documentary on Looksmaxxing in Thailand because he's a filmmaker. And when the video we watched talking about Connor Murphy, it's going to reference that Connor Murphy was being interviewed for a documentary that he thought was going on Hulu. Well, this is Your Mate Tom doing that interview. And so Your Mate Tom posted this video just yesterday, July 9th. Today's July 10th. And it is 10 minutes of Connor Murphy. And you can see he's very articulate. His eyes, there seems to be like an absence behind his eyes, but he's still quick-witted. His mind's there. He's articulate, and he's chugging Monster energy drinks like there's no tomorrow. But we'll watch some of this. But I just wanted to highlight all of that as we move through, because, it's a unique. It's not unique in the regards to the use of psychedelics, but I want to be respectful because the guy is dead. And I believe in the afterlife. I'm an Orthodox Christian, so I want to be respectful, but we're going to be watching stuff that is going to make us laugh. It is going to make us cringe, but so be it. Quentin Wright throws in 10. Thank you very much, Quentin Wright. He says, I had a lot of help with depression with psychedelics. I ended up going overboard. Now I have to take Seroquel to sleep. Well, that, again, and it goes to my larger thesis today. You have to be careful with this stuff. You really don't know where it can take you. And I'm sorry to hear that, Quentin, that you're unable to sleep now. I have no idea what the long-term effects were. But I have met people, especially in the Bay Area, especially some of these hippies from the 1960s, that their brains seem to be fried. And sometimes I question, I wonder if I did permanent damage to my brain or my synapses from all the substance abuse that I participated in. I never got into hardcore drugs, by the way. So like heroin or meth or cocaine or crack, none of that stuff. I was very much into cannabis and psychedelics. But even then, they can overload the system and they can cause permanent damage. Wow. Silent throws in $100 super chat. No comment. Silent, thank you very, very much, brother, for that generous support. Thank you. St. Perk throws in 10, says, just an FYI, roids play a big part in these guys' death too. RIP Joey Swole and Rich Piana. Oddly, also many of these characters go and live in Thailand. I don't know why. Yeah. And the same thing was Joe Aesthetic. Joe Aesthetic was a aesthetic bodybuilder, and he died potentially, most people suspect, due to his use of steroids. And that's another point that I planned on bringing up throughout today's conversation, is that Connor Murphy got on gear back early when he was an aesthetic fitness influencer. And from his friends that knew him, claimed that he never got off it. He would continue to take tests and anabolics the entire year, and then combine that with psychedelics, combine that with, other drugs, because when he died, they found 2 syringes at his house where he threw paint everywhere. They found unidentifiable pills in a bag in his car that we don't know yet. The toxicology report and the autopsy have not been made public yet in Thailand. So we just don't know yet, but absolutely all that stuff plays a factor. And, Tren and some of these anabolic steroids are known to mess with people's sex drives, where these really masculine buff dudes think that they're into men. And maybe that's part of what happened to Connor as well, let alone the demonic influence from the psychedelics, but all of his use with steroids and stuff like that. So anyways, let's get back to our video.
Connor first became famous for a much simpler kind of transformation. He was from Austin, Texas, and before YouTube became his life, he studied computational mathematics and economics at Southwestern University in Georgetown. That part of his background is worth mentioning because Connor was never seen by those around him as just a bodybuilder with a camera. Even people who criticized him often described him as sharp, articulate, and able to make strange ideas sound convincing. His fitness story began a long way back. In one of his early videos, Connor said that when he was younger, he had not been the coolest person in his class. He wanted to change that, and weight training became the method. He reportedly started lifting at around 13 after getting access to a weight room. That origin became the foundation of his brand. Connor did not just sell fitness as health. He sold it as social rebirth. Build the body, change the face people see, change the way the world reacts. When he started uploading to YouTube in 2016, he understood the platform almost immediately. His videos were not boring workouts. They were moments built to gain massive amounts of views and attention. The fake shirt trick, the Planet Fitness videos, the social experiments where his physique became the punchline and the product at the same time. It worked. His main channel grew to more than 2 million subscribers, and his wider audience across YouTube and Instagram reached into the millions. He became a sponsored athlete, launched apparel, collaborated with other creators, and became one of the recognizable faces of that era of fitness YouTube. Tony Huge later said Connor inspired young men around the world to get in shape. He described traveling with him and seeing people approach Connor to say they had started training because of his videos. That was the clean version of the story. A bullied or insecure young man rebuilds himself, becomes famous, and motivates others. But Connor later admitted there was another layer. The confident man on camera was not exactly the man off camera. The problem with Connor Murphy's downfall is that the warning signs were hidden inside the same behavior that made him famous. Connor had always performed. His early videos were built on stage situations, exaggerated confidence, public reactions, and social tension. Later, he openly explained that the hyper-confident version of himself was not the whole truth. It was a character he had created. That would be strange enough on its own. But, according to Tony Huge, it became a real issue in Connor's final years. Tony said that when friends told Connor he seemed off, Connor would push back by saying he was acting. Tony described it plainly. When we would tell Connor, "Oh, he's acting crazy," he'd be like, "Yeah, I know, I'm acting. I'm an actor." That meant every concern had a built-in escape hatch. If Connor behaved in a way that worried people, he could frame it as content. If someone challenged him, he could make them feel as if they simply did not understand the performance. Greg Doucette made a similar point after Connor's death. He said Connor was notorious for staging certain events, and that even while watching Tony's video, part of him wondered whether the entire story could somehow be another stunt. That uncertainty was kind of built in. His public image had trained people not to trust the obvious. His audience had seen him act bizarre, then explain it away. His friends had seen him switch between strange behavior and sudden clarity. Tony said that sometimes Connor could be acting his absolute craziest, but if confronted, he could become sober and sharp and smart and well-spoken. So the question became difficult. Was Connor losing control or proving he still had it? By the time people knew the answer, it was too late. As Connor moved away from ordinary fitness content, his world became more extreme. He started speaking more about consciousness, spirituality, yoga, self-reflection, and alternate states. He also became connected to Looksmaxxing and biohacking. Looksmaxxing is the pursuit of maximizing appearance. Biohacking is the attempt to optimize physical or mental performance through routines, supplements, diets, substances, and experimental methods. For Connor, those ideas seemed to merge with the original promise of his channel. Fitness had once been the tool for transformation. Now transformation appeared to mean something much bigger. TMZ reported that before his death, Connor had been involved in a documentary project focused on Looksmaxxing and biohacking.
And again, that's the documentary I was mentioning with your mate Tom, which he posted this interview. This is one of the interviews that he conducted. Apparently, your mate Tom's going to publish the entire conversation he had. But at the beginning of this video, he literally says this was on June 17th, so just a few weeks before he ended up passing away. And we'll watch just a little bit of it, but that's the documentary the guy's referring to. And you can see he had this, again, this Maximilian Mandibulius Zygomitius is his alter ego for Looksmaxxing. And we'll look into all this stuff on TikTok that he was putting, because you can see how massive his jaws were. His jaw muscles got ginormous from it's chewing, the masticating gum that makes your jaw stronger and stronger. And this was his pursuit to look like the Giga Chad.
Sources told TMZ that a production crew had already completed at least one filming trip to Thailand.
And you can see these horns. He kept doing this, like his alter ego in the Looksmaxxing was very demonic. I mean, you can go to his TikTok here, and I'll back out. Here, Connor Murphy. And you can see all these strange videos where he's at some of them, he's like crawling out of the water here with his horns on. To me, again, total demonic influence. And we're going to hear stuff that he says talking about Christ. And again, one of the videos he posted weeks before his death was essentially blaspheming the Holy Spirit.
To Thailand with another planned. According to that report, Connor had said the documentary was being made for Hulu, but Tony's account went much further than ordinary biohacking. He said Connor believed gold could change him. According to Tony, Connor had a theory that if gold entered every cell in the body, it could affect conductivity, physical ability, and connection to the metaphysical world. Tony claimed Connor went to gold shops, bought gold bars, necklaces, and bracelets, and used water, electrodes, electricity, and frequency in what Tony described as a calculated protocol. Tony said he did not know every detail because he was not interested in injecting gold into himself. Then he added, "Maybe I'm just a level 9 biohacker, and Connor was a level 10 biohacker." That line sounds ridiculous, but Tony did not present it as a joke. He said he and other friends were nervous. He worried that gold, especially at nanoparticle size, might not be easy for the human body to remove. He also claimed Connor believed the experiment was working. Tony said that whenever friends challenged him, Connor would demonstrate some new ability or explain that he was developing what he called superhuman powers. This is where the story becomes dangerous to simplify.
Hey, want to give a shout out to all the rattlesnakes. Welcome to the chat, guys. Shout out to Jake Rattlesnake.
No confirmed forensic finding in the available reporting that gold caused Connor's death. Police were still waiting for autopsy and toxicology results. But Tony's claims are relevant because they show that Connor was now living in a world all of his own. A world where fitness, spirituality, performance, chemistry, beauty, golf, and self-belief had fused into one experiment. Tony Huge was not just reacting as a distant commentator. He said he had seen Connor recently, filmed with him, collaborated with him, and spoken to him shortly before everything happened. He also said he had seen the gold setup that Connor was working with. According to Tony, Connor had been gradually increasing the amount he used. He claimed Connor had started with smaller amounts, then moved further. Tony said he had just injected a very large amount of gold and described it as Connor titrating up his dose. Then he gave the line that makes the whole story feel almost unreal. Tony claimed Connor had put like a whole necklace into his body. Again, that is Tony's claim. It is not a confirmed medical finding, but as a witness to Connor's final mindset, it is important. Tony said Connor...
And again, for my prep work, I was watching a video of another Looksmaxxer that knew Connor, and the days leading up to, again, his death, he said, and even Tony Huge, this guy right here that you're seeing on screen, he claimed that he began with just like small doses of gold, which obviously can create a toxicity in the body, right? Obviously. But he was convinced that this was some type of hidden esoteric trick for longevity and immortality. We're going to watch some of the videos. And he was beginning to inject with a syringe an entire gold necklace into his body. This was just a few days before he ended up dying. So this wasn't just a little bit of gold. This isn't like, you go to these fancy restaurants in Europe and they have like gold leaf on your burger and stuff like this. No. He was smelting down gold in liquid form and injecting. He, at one point, according to Tony Huge, he watched him inject an entire gold necklace he got and put it straight into his body. So not only the psychedelics, not only the psychosis, but who knows what the toxicity of all that gold in his body was doing to him while, again, the days before his death.
The gold was linked to superhuman abilities. He said Connor was testing himself through sprinting, climbing, jumping, lifting, and golf. Golf, according to Tony, was not a side interest. It was one of Connor's obsessions. He said Connor wanted to become a professional golfer and believed his biohacking could help him change the game.
Yeah, Radix Virum. I thought the same thing, because when you watch the Tony Huge video, where is that? Like right around here. This right here, the Tony Huge. So this is Tony Huge. This is the guy that they're referring to in the video we're watching. I was blown away by it as well, because I'm thinking, dude, why didn't you tell him to stop putting that stuff in his body? And he's like, well, the way he describes it is Connor was really smart and he was definitely onto something. He claims that Connor had superhuman abilities from his theories with gold and his biohacking. It's like, but dude, do you understand what metal toxicity can do? You understand watching a dude inject an entire gold necklace into his body, you realize that that's going to contribute to his death one way or another, whether he, drowns in the lake behind his house or not. So I thought the same thing. Why was nobody stopping him? Why was nobody just saying, dude, don't do that? Like, that's a terrible idea.
Tony described Connor as someone with huge dreams, someone who hated being told he could not do something, and someone who could make people feel as if concern was just negativity. That created a terrible problem for friends. Tony said he warned Connor. He told him the experiment seemed dangerous, but he also admitted he did not push as hard as he now wondered if he should have. He compared it to trying to confront someone with a serious problem when they insist they have it under control. At one point, Tony remembered a recent night when Connor was acting strangely and wanted to ride on the back of his motorbike. Tony said he hesitated because Connor seemed off. Connor answered that it was all an act. Tony let him ride and Connor behaved perfectly. Afterwards, Connor basically pointed to that as proof. He was in control. That is the trap at the center of the story. Connor had spent years making performance part of his identity, so when he seemed unstable, he could still prove, at least for a moment, that he was choosing it. Tony said, "I thought he was in control, but by the time he recorded the video, he was clearly questioning that." He said Connor had become more abnormal than even his normal self. He wondered whether the gold had caused something to start misfiring in Connor's brain. Greg Doucette reacted to this with disbelief, saying Tony spoke more about Connor injecting gold than almost anything else. Greg also pointed out that when someone is behaving erratically, there are many possible explanations. Substances, self-experimentation, a mental health episode, or something else entirely. The final online material only made the story more unsettling. 6 days before Connor's time on this earth ended, he uploaded "R.I.P. Elon Muscular." The caption began, "Obituary pending," before explaining that the video was a satirical acting performance and should not be replicated.
And I want to show you guys that video. So I have it pulled up. This is right here. So this is the last video. Again, Connor Murphy YouTube channel, 2.36 million subscribers, 175,000 views. This was 8 days ago. He uploaded it. Now remember, he dies July 7th. This is the last thing that Connor Murphy uploaded.
I'm absorbing the spirit of Elon. Thank you, Elon, for your sacrifice. Elon, I will become the most famous guitar player in the world. Just for you. You motherfuckers haven't. You motherfuckers have an unhealthy relationship with death.
Isn't that so crazy? One of the last things literally the last thing he said on his YouTube channel was UMFers have an unhealthy relationship to death. And he ended up dying, was that 5 days later?
Connor knew the material could be misread, but again, maybe that was all part of the show. He was still placing a frame around the chaos. He was still saying, in effect, this is performance. By itself, strange content does not prove anything. Connor's channel had already moved far beyond normal fitness videos into what could be seen as full-on entertainment. His audience now simply expected the instability, satire, spirituality, and provocation. But now the words obituary pending stopped looking like just another caption. The disclaimers stopped feeling like ordinary internet weirdness, and the title, R.I.P. Elon Muscular, became part of a final sequence nobody could cleanly explain. That was why even Greg Doucette said he messaged Connor, asking if he was still with us. He had seen enough influencer drama, enough staged moments, and enough Connor Murphy content to hesitate before accepting the news as real. In most cases, that would sound absurd. With Connor, it was part of the problem. On July 7, 2026, Thai police responded to reports of a man behaving erratically at a luxury residential property in Samut Prakan, near Bangkok. According to Chaos Odd English, Connor had been staying at a rented lakeside house with his 22-year-old girlfriend, identified only as B. The property was reportedly worth 22 million baht and rented for 35,000 baht a month. Before the drowning, witnesses described a sequence of increasingly unusual behavior. A security guard told police that Connor returned to the neighborhood in a hired vehicle and reportedly tried to give the driver 1,000 baht. He then allegedly approached another resident's car asking for a ride. The guard warned the driver not to pick him up. After that, Connor reportedly became agitated, shouted, rolled on the pavement, and raised his hands as if praying. When police arrived, he ran into the village and entered the lake. Witnesses said he swam until he appeared exhausted, then disappeared beneath the surface. Chaos Odd reported that witnesses did not enter the water because the lake was more than 10 meters deep. Rescue divers were called, and after around 30 minutes of searching, Connor was found about 20 meters from shore. An initial examination found no signs of assault. His body was sent for a post-mortem examination. Inside the rented property, police reportedly found extensive damage. Black and yellowish paint had been splashed through the house, including on furniture, decorations, and electrical appliances. B reportedly said the damage appeared to have happened overnight while she was asleep in another room. She said Connor had seemed normal before the incident, and that she had never seen him use drugs while they were living together. Police also reportedly found 2 unused syringes and unidentified white pills in Connor's vehicle. Was this connected to substances? Was it connected to self-experimentation? Was it a mental health crisis? Was it some combination of factors? At the time of reporting, full autopsy and toxicology results were still pending. The only confirmed endpoint was the lake. The cleanest version of this story is also the least satisfying. Connor Murphy drowned in Thailand after witnesses reported erratic behavior. There were no initial signs of assault. Police were still waiting on full forensic results. Everything beyond that has to be handled carefully. Tony Huge claimed Connor had been injecting gold and chasing superhuman abilities. Greg Doucette repeated those claims while stressing uncertainty and asking whether substances, self-experimentation, mental health, or performance had played a role. But the most disturbing part is not any single theory, it is the pattern.
So I want to show you guys some of his posts, again, leading up to his death. So I want to show you the journey in which he started to get into psychedelics and how I believe he was still possessed to some degree. So this is the very last video. So if you go to his TikTok page, this is Connor Murphy's TikTok. He posted it on one of the other, let's see, one of the other TikTok accounts he had. This one right here. So he had like 3 or 4 TikTok accounts. And this is the last post that he made. I believe this is the night before he died.
Just trying to remind myself because I'm really high. It's getting weird. I feel like I'm dying every second. So I'm just making this video so I can like watch it and remind myself, fuck, pinch myself. Am I dreaming? Is it real? Okay. Okay. Just filming this for me. Okay. It's the camera roll. Don't post this one. Okay. Reminder. Connor, reminder. Don't post this one.
So definitely you can see the dilation in his pupils. Definitely on some type of, I would have guessed shrooms, LSD. Maybe he was doing the ayahuasca again. Again, a lot of the drug scene in Thailand is very accessible to people. That's why so many of these influencers go to Thailand, because the sex industry, drug access, a lot of this stuff is easy for these Westerners who go there that have more money. And again, you go back to his TikTok and you can see, and this is a collection because this was his official TikTok. This was the last post that he made on TikTok before the one that we just saw of Leo and Longevity, who he himself, Leo and Longevity, Leo Rex, was an American fitness YouTuber channel. Leo and Longevity was found dead on January 30th, 2023 in his apartment in Pattaya, Thailand. He was 34 years old. Some of you guys may have seen this guy before. He was really big in like the 2020 to 2023. A lot of stuff on like how to extend your penis length and stuff like that. There's speculation that maybe he died or something. But while police initially stated the cause of death was undetermined pending an autopsy, Tony Huge, again, Tony Huge, this guy right here, friends with both of these people, publicly claimed that Leo died from a manic episode related to his own bipolar disorder, asserting that no foul play was involved. However, this narrative has been heavily contested by online investigators and community members who point to signs of a struggle and potential foul play, including theories involving assault or murder. So you go to Connor, and this is 2.4 million views, by the way. And look at the caption here. It says, Leo and Longevity, tragically, comically ironic. And I mean, what are the chances the dude posts something like that and literally dies just a few days later? And again, there's a lot of suspicion about Leo and Longevity himself being bipolar, himself having these manic episodes. And Leo and Longevity was all about this biohacking community where they were injecting themselves with all types of stuff. Juan Manuel, penis maxing. Yes. So Leo and Longevity, that was one of the big things. And in fact, if you go to Connor's YouTube channel, let's see, like right here, we watch this one. Go to Connor Murphy YouTube channel, go to his videos, and you'll see like he has stuff bigger, stronger, longer, the movie part 1. And he's talking with people about how to increase your penis length. You know, this was his alter ego. I'll show you in a little bit of this mandibulius zygomedius. But look at this. Like you can tell the guy is going through some type of psychosis. And I'm going to show you a video documenting when all this stuff really happened with his ayahuasca and psychedelic usage. So you get it. It goes on. And you can just go through his recent videos and just look at like what, like, look at this guy. This was the type of content he was producing. And mind you, he is followed by tons of little kids. So his audience shifted from his fitness aesthetic community to a bunch of, a lot of these younger Gen Zers that are into the Looksmaxxing stuff. And he was trying to become, according to him, we'll see, the #1 Looksmaxxer in the world. And here's him with some of these Looksmaxxers.
What in the world? What the fuck is this? Tony? What the fuck is this? This isn't a comb? What?
There's two sides to it. This is the comb, and this is the hair cutter side. This is for your eyebrows.
Did you say fucking hair cutter?
And he had another TikTok account. So this was his golf TikTok account because he believed that he was getting ready to become like a professional golfer. That was part of like his long-term goals here. Major thank you to Blink4444 for a $20 super chat. Says, just got here late for the goal. Well, thank you very much, brother. I appreciate you contributing to the goal. And XX Lockstep throws in 5. No comment. Thank you very much, brother. And he threw in another one. Says, worrying about your pee-pee is the first step to getting rid of your ego. Yeah. Well, we'll see that he never killed his ego. We'll see that his ego was very much alive and well throughout much of this stuff, despite his spiritual beliefs. But this was, he claimed to have found the secret to a new type of golf swing. And he was posting all this content documenting his golf journey. And so this mansion, or this massive residence he was living in Thailand, not only did it have a lake behind it, as we'll see, but he lived on a golf course so that he could play golf regularly. And you can just go through here and see some of this crazy, crazy stuff. Like, let's see. And you see that scar on his stomach? You see that scar like right here on his stomach? Well, that is from an incident in which, right here. The scar on Connor Murphy's abdomen appears to be a keloid scar resulting from a stabbing incident in Thailand. And so towards the end of his, again, like 2 years before he died, he got into some weird incident with his girlfriend. Here, there's a video that I found talking a little bit about that right here, where he was living with his girlfriend and her younger sister, and he hit the younger sister in the head with a golf club. And apparently his girlfriend stabbed him in the side after he broke through a window, attacking her on another one of these manic episodes.
Leads him to his episodes, each worse than the last. On May 1st, 2024, a Thai news outlet published an article reporting that Connor had hit his girlfriend with a golf club, claiming that it was for content situation that happened in their life. It's usually because they suffered some kind of trauma that they haven't yet understood. Like I said, published an article reporting that Connor had hit his girlfriend with a golf club, claiming that it was for content creation. According to the people who called the incident into the police, Connor was screaming incoherently and destroying household items. And when the cops got there, he locked himself in the bathroom. The fact that Connor assaulted his Thai girlfriend and proceeded to lock himself in the bathroom is something that a lot of people feel is reminiscent of the speculations around Leo and longevity story, which just makes the entire thing really, really ominous. Eventually, audio of Connor screaming during the incident was released, and it's just as funny as it is haunting. Recordings of the state Connor left the house in show that the entire place was absolutely trashed and that there was blood all over the place. And it turns out he wasn't just living with his girlfriend, but also her sick.
That is his girlfriend's 16-year-old sister that he hit with a golf club. You can see all the blood on her face from how severe he actually hit her. It's not just an accident, kind of mildly touched her or grazed her head. No. Looks like he smashed her in the head.
18-year-old sister. This in and of itself adds an entire other dimension of questionability to the entire situation, since in the best case scenario, this teenage girl had to witness her sister get pummeled with a golf club. Despite his claims that all of this was for content and no one actually got hurt, Connor got a massive gash on his body from, according to the article, being cut with a large piece of glass. Around a month after the incident, he ended up posting a short video in which he suggested that the gash was the result of an attack from his girlfriend, although this isn't confirmed.
Meet Lucy, a realistic blue avatar style sex doll. So, why did we invite Lucy into our humble abode? Well, in an attempt to mitigate Fairy's jealousy. See, Fairy patently appears as the cutest human being in existence. But when jealousy strikes, she makes a hulkish transformation into a chaotic demon, the consequences of which can be quite dire. But I forgive her. I understand her biologically hardwired predilection.
When Tony Huge commented on the situation, he seemingly supported Connor, at least insofar as he strongly suggested that all of it was staged and somehow an act. Based on the involvement of Thailand's law enforcement, which, by the way, has the death penalty, I strongly doubt that they were all playing along and being puppeted by Connor's mastermind plans. Somehow, Connor didn't get locked a long time as a consequence. But ever since this incident, he hasn't made any major uploads to his channel, only occasionally uploading a YouTube short. Although he did regain his physique, the same cannot be said for his sanity. I assume he is still making some money though, through all of the affiliate links packed into every one of his videos' descriptions, and all of the supplements that he's promoting on his Instagram account. His latest scheme, which appears to be operating in tandem with Tony Huge's online presence, is promoting what he calls the Natty Plus protocol. Based on what Connor says, his intention is to essentially abolish the concept of a bodybuilder being natural or not being natural, suggesting that even common supplements like creatine are also unnatural. This, most likely, is just one gigantic, overextended cope about his continued use of steroids. However profitable this thing may be, I honestly have no idea if it makes him enough money to maintain his lifestyle, even if he stays in Thailand, which is significantly cheaper than living in the US. This is an angle that hasn't been mentioned by anyone I've seen, but given how lavish his life was in the United States, and given how little success his channel had, it's quite possible that his permanent move to Thailand had something to do with that. Then again, that still doesn't answer the question of how he's making any money to sustain himself and his physique in Thailand. But honestly, I'm not even sure I want to know.
So, and that was from a video. Obviously, we're not watching all of that. That was from a year ago. And one of the things I do want to show you guys is the Sunny V2 video, because it really demonstrates the psychotic break. And how did Connor Murphy get to this position where he's posting, you know, this was his personal channel. He had a golf channel, and then this was his Natty Plus protocol. Like the video we just watched was talking about, he was into all this Natty Plus protocol stuff. This is where he's like telling people what drugs to take. You can see he makes tons of content with androgenic
Side effects. Man, I'm still struggling with it.
And we'll catch a little bit of this stuff, but you know, one of these videos, like a bunch of these, like this one was disturbing to me. This is with him and androgenic, this Looksmaxxer in Thailand, and look how young this girl looks. She does not look of age at all. She looks like she's like 12 years old. And we'll see in the video documenting his, collapse. At one point, he claims to be a pedo. Now, that could have been him acting or doing something like this. But as I said, I think it's part of this demonic possession from all these psychedelic drugs he was taking. Pedoland. Do a lot of pedos go to Thailand? Because I looked at that and I thought, geez, that girl looks young. Why is she hanging out with androgenic and Connor Murphy? Yeah, the Orthodox Thomas says the demons got to him. Sad to admit. No, absolutely. And that's what, again, I want to be respectful to him and his family, because think about it. His parents are going to have to bury him. They're sending his body after this autopsy from Thailand back to Texas so that he can be buried. But within just the last few years, he was talking about sleeping with ladyboys. You know, I was finding articles online talking about within the last 2 years, he was publicly himself talked about ladyboys in Thailand. And we don't know, is he acting? Is he serious? But he was talking about how he was confused about his own sexual orientation. And his girlfriend, supposedly B, that's all we know by her name, is the letter B, and she was 10 years younger than him, which isn't a big problem. You know, that's okay. She's 22, he's 32. There's nothing, you know, fishy about that. But you see some of these girls in these videos and they look so young, like 12 to 16 years old. Clavicular made out with a couple trainees recently. Yeah, I saw that Clavicular is getting paid by Israel and is protected by the IDF right now. And that he followed Benjamin Netanyahu today. So again, everything's going as planned after the Israelis kicked him out. And one of the things about Clavicular that I saw was interesting is one of the Jews that he was with, they came up to him while he's in Israel and asked him, you know, what do you think of Israel, this or that? And he told Clavicular right at the end, he says, welcome home, which there's a lot of speculation about, is Clavicular Jewish or not? But again, this stream's not necessarily about Clavicular per se, but anyway, just some of this stuff is just so strange. You know, this was him standing here with Androgenic. This is Tony Huge. This is Connor Murphy. You can see all the people making fun of Androgenic's boots because he has lifts inside of them so he can look taller. These guys are nuts. Dude, this Looksmaxxing stuff is literally going to make people, well, it's already turning some of them gay, but it's just absolutely ridiculous what they do. Bachman throws in 5. Thank you very much, brother. He says, do you have insight on correlation of YouTube content creation and egotism/delusion? Well, I mean, nothing in particular, but one of the things that makes me think about is, you know, I saw Myron Gaines even talked about this because he covered the Connor Murphy situation. And Myron Gaines was talking about how he thinks this is one of the problems when you attain like wealth, fame, and status in your early 20s, because Connor Murphy was basically famous, wealthy, could get all the women he wanted in his early 20s. And he claimed in a video, once you get into all this psychedelic ayahuasca stuff, that he had achieved all his goals. And now he needed to set sail for these new type of goals that he wanted. And Myron was making the point that this is one of the problems when if you attain everything when you're 20, you don't appreciate it. You think it's easy. You know, he was gifted. He was making millions of dollars. And he was, you know, being hired by Abercrombie and Fitch and this or that to do all this different stuff. And, you know, this was one of the gay sites. This was me using AI. So trust me, but I was using AI to find references to his homosexual stuff. And the begay.com did an obituary to him because he apparently posted a short at some point that parents kicked me out for being gay. The strange and tragic tale of a Looksmaxxer. And you can see all these comments of these gay guys underneath. But was he gay or was he acting? We don't really know. You know, this is him claiming that he has like God energy. And we'll see this in some of the videos. This was the post where he was blaspheming the Holy Spirit and the Holy Ghost. And if you can go to his Looksmaxxing thing and find some of these videos. I'm not going to go through all of it because I got it right here. But, you know, Looksmaxxing influencer Connor Murphy has died at the age of 32 after drowning in a lake in Thailand. And his final post on Instagram, so I believe this is his Instagram right here. Right here. In his final post on Instagram, he appeared to mock the Holy Ghost. Murphy rose to fame. And so the post is captioned Holy Ghost boo. And he's like dressed up like an elf shooting like rubber darts around the house. Like, what is this guy doing? Like, clearly into some weird psychosis. And all these people around him, I don't know if he had tons of money or what, because as I said, nobody really knows how he was sustaining his lifestyle and buying all this stuff and staying in this massive house in Thailand on a golf course on a lake. Nobody really knows how he was making money. But just really, really strange stuff, you know? And I don't know if he was intentionally blaspheming the Holy Spirit, but as we know, Christ tells us that's the one unforgivable sin. So I want to show you guys his journey on how the dude got to this place. So this was a video done by the big YouTube channel Sunny V2. This was 4 years ago, right at the end of all his spiritual new age, spiritual BS, and documenting how his transformation and his world began to fall apart, essentially.
Knowing that is how I created the plan. I can't do the plan if I knew it the whole time because I'd be cracking up, so I make myself forget I am infinitely intelligent, so I can make myself.
Conor Murphy once had a reputation as an extroverted, disciplined go-getter whose athleticism easily rivaled other top-tier fitness influencers. However, as the years rolled by and Conor's channel faded into irrelevance, his mental state would sadly decline alongside it.
I used to be so happy when I was a kid.
This is called Times Market. I love this place because the Gospel of Thomas is where it's at. See, the people who wrote the Bible or
I was actually put into it.
And so if you watch that full clip, he's talking about how the Gospel of Thomas is the true gospel. Well, I just did a stream yesterday on the hero's journey. You know, Joseph Campbell, the famous, comparative mythologist. And that's exactly what he says. I showed you guys in that stream a video of Joseph Campbell saying the exact same thing, that, the synoptic gospels, the 4 gospels in the Bible, or the canonical gospels, including, synoptics without John, but the canonical gospels, they're contradictory. They don't make sense. It's an incoherent world. And that the Gospel of Thomas is the true gospel of Christ, which is a Gnostic text. And it has a totally different type of Christ. The Gospel of Thomas is basically a bunch of one-liners attributed to Jesus through this Gnostic cult, essentially. Because when you get into the Nag Hammadi, all those, the Gospel of Philip, the Gospel of Mary, the Gospel of Thomas, these are the infancy Gospels. These are different competing Gnostic cults trying to re-describe Christ during the rise of Christianity. And they incorporated, some of them were like proto-Jewish cults. They incorporated Neoplatonism, Gnosticism, Babylonian magic, all this different stuff. Well, he fell into that exact same world where he claimed that the authors of the Bible made it all up, but the Gospel of Thomas, that's the true one. Again, this is all the problem of taking psychedelics. They open you up to the demonic. And we're going to watch in this video this transformation from this guy that had everything to full-blown psychedelic demonic possession psychosis.
Psych ward for over 2 weeks.
When in the psych ward, he said he was God. He was offered antipsychotic medication.
Every emotion in me is just rapid fire.
The whole universe is me. I am consciousness.
I know that Mom has a stronger belief in heaven than you, Dad. It's in essence, you can feel it. You can feel God within someone.
Now this, ladies and gentlemen, is a man who has officially lost his mind.
Breakdowns, psych wards, strange podcasts, and the belief that he had become God were all captured right here on the YouTube platform, with his path to insanity beginning on the 9th of January 2016, when Conor Murphy would post his very first video titled Conor Murphy
We can skip his rise to fame. You guys get it. He was a fitness influencer. He was super, super popular. We don't need to watch all the videos where he's taking his shirt off. I'm more interested in basically 2020. The lockdowns transformed this guy. And once the lockdowns hit, that's when he started to get into all of these psychedelic drugs.
When he rolled around, the prank genre had not only become even more dated, but Conor was facing a new problem. Almost all of his viral ideas required outdoor social interaction with females, which had been halted by US lockdowns, forcing him to return to older video ideas.
And I know it has been forever since I've made an Omega video, but since it's pretty much the only type of content I can film right now, I figured it was time to do another one.
Conor returned to the streets whenever lockdowns were lifted.
On 6th Street, thank goodness it is back, like the good old days.
However, the overall limitation would drop his monthly view count to less than 3 million per month, forcing Conor to try a new career path. With a sane and coherent mind, Conor Murphy made the decision to move to LA in pursuit of becoming an actor, and while the potential of a new career path was incredibly exciting, this would be the point at which things began to go downhill rapidly.
For a while now, he's come under fire for his physique essentially deteriorating. Compared to when he first started YouTube, he's kind of like, doesn't look nearly as good as when he first started. It looks like he's probably lost about 10 to 15 pounds of muscle.
While Connor's physique was still incredibly impressive by average standards, it was becoming increasingly obvious that his body wasn't built to the same standard as it had been in the early days of his channel.
Is it just me, or is Connor looking a little smaller and less shredded? Not hating, just noticing. Bro, your videos are awesome, but what's wrong with you? You don't look like a bodybuilder. Your abs are disappearing. You don't look shredded. Focus on your physique more, bro, although I enjoy watching your vids.
Connor explained the reason for his loss of gains to be
body fat percentage. And over the course of the last few months or whatever, I've probably gained like 1 to 2% body fat. The second thing, man, is lighting.
However, others speculated that his weight loss might have been the result of some kind of addiction.
I don't look that skinny, do I?
You might, man.
Maybe.
You've lost.
I mean, you're definitely bigger than me, but yeah, I have lost a lot. Well,
you weigh less. You weigh less than me by a lot now because you've lost 31 pounds.
Something like that, yeah.
These suspicions would be confirmed to some extent when his friend and fellow YouTuber, Patrick Lyons, would upload a video explaining that in early 2020, Connor tried psychedelics for the first time.
Connor has taken a substance called ayahuasca. For the first time, he took it about a year ago. And when he took it a year ago, it is what led to the first period of concerning video content creation on his part related to what he called enlightenment.
The mentioned concerning video content began with this video in late 2020 titled Why I Deleted My Old Videos and How to Access Them, in which his audience would witness the first example of Connor giving up his old gym-related branding, replacing it with a much more hippie vibe, wearing a hoodie and necklace while standing in front of a damp rainforest poster. Throughout the video, Connor would discuss the many downsides of success in a relatable, articulate, and intelligent manner.
I reached this point of success, the great physique, the girls, the money, and I became depressed.
And while his new introspective message might have resonated with some, in the months that followed, it became blatantly obvious that Connor Murphy was diving deeper into what you might call the spirit realm as his ramblings became increasingly incoherent.
Through deep meditation and consciousness work, you can realize that you can be free of the compulsive nature behind thought. Of course, you will still think, but there won't be any addictive qualities to that thought. You can detach from your thoughts and be the observer of the thoughts, rather than identify with the thoughts. That is probably the biggest addiction of all.
At around the same time, Connor would post a picture to his Instagram holding a graduation certificate alongside a caption reading, I am now officially a doctor. That's right, I received an honorary doctorate in spirituality from the Los Angeles Development Church, an institute simply from making a donation. This honorary degree lets me legally use the doctor title in front of my name. I can legally be referred to as Dr. Connor Murphy. His former friend and fellow YouTuber Patrick Lyons, who had originally updated everyone on Connor's ayahuasca use, then went on to explain that Connor's dosage had increased substantially.
He took that ayahuasca the first time a year ago, and I don't know where along the lines these things happened, but he has increased his frequency of consumption to every 2 hours.
Which would also be reiterated by another friend of Connor called Jane.
I asked Connor, how often do you do ayahuasca? And he said, every 2 hours.
Connor's extreme dosage would become apparent when a channel called Micah would upload a video titled We Went to Save Connor Murphy, in which Connor's apartment can be seen in complete and utter disarray, shown similarly in Jane's video.
I drove my car to Connor's apartment complex. There were a bunch of boxes and trash bags in front of his door. We went inside his apartment and this is what I saw. The stack of boxes was so huge that it took up half of the apartment and spilled out through the front door. Connor apologized for it being so messy, but said that he hadn't had time to clean because he'd been so busy making content.
I've just been so focused on getting up all this content. I just haven't had time to clean.
That's why I'm here. So I just started unboxing the mountain of packages, and it was a bunch of totally random stuff. Just a few of the things were a Harry Potter invisibility cloak, 12 cans of oxygen, and a cat tower. I asked him if he had a cat, and he said no.
Before he'd go on to imply that he'd completely given up on his bodybuilding diet.
How you been getting all your calories in?
Well, I just eat whatever I want now.
Later in the video, Connor's mental health problems would be put on full display.
My name is Stewie Griffin in Belle Delphine. You like this? I'm about to eat some vegan macaroni and cheese. Vegan. It's made out of plants, just like your...
When the two guys who were filming the video left Connor's house, they'd receive this call.
The giant Zoom call. The world is on a giant Zoom call, please. I'm begging you, man. I'll pay you anything. Please, get over here.
Dude, yeah, I'll let you know. We probably will.
I will give you all the money in the world. It's a worldwide Zoom call.
All right.
Okay, now thank you.
You know, and I was covering this back in when all this stuff was transpiring with Connor Murphy, I did a live stream. And as I said, I think part of it is still on the YouTube channel because Connor Murphy took my video down while I was live. Because I was just showing clips of his YouTube channel, and I was talking about all the psychedelic stuff and psychosis and demonic possession and warning people. Somehow he must have been searching his name, and my stream came up. Again, I've never interacted or never did interact with Connor Murphy directly, and he flagged it, and it got taken down, and I did the rest of the stream on D Live back when D Live was a thing. So, Connor Murphy was, again, in this weird place where he was all about ego dissolution. His ego doesn't exist. But then when I was talking about him online, he flagged my channel and got it shut down. Or at least the stream shut down, not my channel.
Dude, showing that it clearly wasn't fake. In other videos, Connor appeared more sane. However, there were still signs of mental illness, such as this video in which he would attempt to pick up girls by telling them that he had become God.
I am God.
Okay.
I'm God. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
I mean, why do you think you're God?
Interesting. So, well, why do you think that I even exist?
Connor's God complex would then lead him to produce even stranger videos, such as this one titled Failing to Enlighten My Parents, in which he would sit in a Zoom call rambling incoherently to his mother and father for an hour and a half straight.
And you can still find this. If you go to, again, Connor Murphy's YouTube channel, let's see, home, it's still up right here, almost 300,000 views from 6 years ago, Failing to Enlighten My Parents.
If you really had faith and you knew that heaven on earth existed, that's the only thing you'd be searching for. You wouldn't be working, you wouldn't be stressing. All you would be doing is doing everything you can to experience heaven on earth.
Accompanying these incoherent ramblings was a complete overhaul of his Instagram from a former aesthetic showground to a psychedelic wasteland.
He's starting to wear like costumes and shit, and he's like going around at nighttime doing weird stuff, and he starts posting these Mario became enlightened when he realized that he is the pixels. You are living in the Matrix. Connor that call me the Happy Hatter, and he's wearing some costume.
In the early days of his channel, Connor had talked about his passion for golf.
My two main, more serious sports were basketball and golf. I played those both in high school, and I play golf in college right now.
Which would be reignited in the strangest way after he had become enlightened, as explained by Derek from More Plates, More Dates.
I look at my DMs, and I'm in this weird group, and it's called like Connor's like enlightened cult or something. The members of this group, it's like Connor, me, Tiger Woods, the PGA Tour, Keemstar, like the weirdest smorgasbord combination of individuals ever. And Connor is just like posting weird voice messages in his Matthew McConaughey accent. And I'm like, what are we doing here, dude? Like, what is going on? And presumably his enlightenment sort of led him towards the realization that he was going to win a major golf tournament professionally, as far as I understand.
In the same video, Derek would go on to explain that Connor had gone so far off the rails that he began posting his saved passwords to his public Instagram.
Him showing every single password on his phone that is saved, like every single account he has and the email associated with it. So like Bank of America, Amazon, even his Bang Energy password, apparently.
Derek would then host a podcast talking about Connor Murphy with another YouTuber who would state that his actions seemed indicative of schizophrenia.
That is psychotic behavior.
Yeah.
That is very indicative of somebody.
So that guy right there, he used to have like the biggest pro psychedelic YouTube channel on YouTube where he would essentially take drugs and talk about them. And when YouTube did a crackdown on substances and talking about substances, they began to shut his channel down. And I remember when he did this interview with More Plates, More Dates. And just for context, when he jumped out on that during that live golf tournament where he had like the LGBTQ flag on, he was producing content where he would walk on the beach and like kiss guys on the lips. And for him, the idea of breaking down the stigma of homosexuality was tied with his perceived enlightenment.
lingering mental instabilities, such as a family history of schizophrenia.
And while it didn't seem like things could possibly get any worse, they were about to. Connor's audience would come to find out that with every high, there's an equivalent low after he'd upload a video simply titled Goodbye. In this video, Connor would explain that he felt as though he was going insane, being at his, quote, mental breaking point.
What's happening? I've gone literally mentally insane over the past few days. I don't understand. I've hit my mental breaking point.
He then go on to state that he was doing anything to try and show his family how to be happy.
For 6 days of
Reverse massage says, leave that stigma right where it is, brother. Yeah, agreed. I saw, yeah, Psych Substance was that psychedelic YouTube channel that the guy was doing the interview with. More Plates, More Dates. I couldn't remember the name. Yeah, he says, imagine doing all this to yourself, destroying yourself in an effort to perfect yourself. And you'll see that this idea of his ego never went away. He never dissolved his ego. What psychedelics do is only inflate it because you think you have secret knowledge. In the name of saying his ego died, he's claiming he's Jesus Christ. He's claiming that he's God. He's diminishing Christ in multiple ways. And I'll show you videos later of him doing that.
I wrote a 70-page book in 2 days to try and explain happiness to them. And it's crazy, but yeah, I'm crazy, but I just want them to be happy. I'm trying to save their lives. They don't realize.
Yeah. No, we should pray for Connor Murphy. I addressed all of this stuff at the beginning of the stream, of the point of this stream being a warning to people of where high-dose psychedelics can take you and what demonic possession does to a person. Because that's my whole thesis today, is that I've watched so many videos recanting Connor Murphy's life, and, you know, Lord have mercy on his soul. I've said a prayer for Connor Murphy, and I'll say another prayer for his soul tonight. But this is a warning for everyone that this shit is real. Spiritual warfare is real. Tony Huge enabled Connor's delusion, unfortunately. I think he did. And I'm not going to say anything because I don't know Tony Huge. All I know from doing research online is that Tony Huge was friends with Leo in Longevity, who went through a similar breakdown and manic episode and ended up dying in his bathroom. I don't know. But Tony Huge, as we saw, was claiming, and I'll show you a video here in just a few, he didn't stop him from all this stuff. And he claimed that Connor was on to like superhuman abilities. I'll show you this. I think if people actually cared for him, they should have stopped. Yeah, demons are real. Absolutely, demons are real. And this is part of, like, he rejected the idea of like an objective morality. So he didn't even believe evil existed. Meanwhile, his soul's literally being taken over by dark spirits. And this is what I want to warn people about.
Before going on to leak his address,
you can come here to 16710.
After posting his address in a public YouTube video, police would pay him a visit before taking him to a psych ward where he would remain for 2 weeks. In the process, he'd remain in contact with his best friend, who'd state that even after being put in a mental hospital, Connor was unable to stop talking about his spiritual enlightenment.
So Connor spent 2 weeks in a psych ward, and I called him every few days. Rather, he called me, and we talked every few days, and he was able to get to a point where he was able to hold a normal conversation and speak normally, but yet one thing remained the same. The one thing that stayed the same was he just didn't want to talk about anything other than his enlightenment and his awakenment. It seemed to be the only thing that mattered to him.
After being let out of the psych ward, Connor would upload a video titled, "Yes, I'm Alive and I'm Sorry," in which he would state that the goodbye video was all an act, done for the purpose of potentially grabbing the attention of a movie studio.
I had this crazy idea. I would make some acting reels that were so dramatic and so controversial that it would grab the attention of producers. And this would be my one final shot at becoming an actor in Los Angeles.
However, at a later date, he'd go on to release the book that he'd been discussing in the original Goodbye video.
I wrote a 70-page book in 2 days.
In which he would state that he planned on replicating the path of Jesus by faking his death so more people could focus on his spiritual message. What if I uncovered the true knowledge and was able to spread it to the world? What if I thought up the most mind-blowing YouTube stunt of all time to spread it? What if I could start to awaken other people and change the world? What if I could actually tell the modern day story of Jesus? I had some work to do before...
And this is what's so sad. is before his death, he was still talking this way about Jesus Christ and that he was Christ and that it was all about Christ consciousness. And that's why Greg Doucette, the fitness influencer, thought that maybe this was a stunt because years previously he had talked about faking his death. A lot of people didn't believe that Connor Murphy actually died in Thailand. Thank you to B Don V for becoming a Codal Crew member. Shout out to you, brother. And if you appreciate this content, you'd like to support my work, please help me reach my super chat goal here on YouTube, or use Streamlabs and Dono Chat because they don't take as much from me as YouTube does. And if you're feeling generous, give some Codal Crew memberships in the chat.
Showing that the psych ward did little to bring him back to reality. In another statement reading, I recently had what the doctors called a manic episode and I call a spiritual awakening. Okay, I admit, there might have been some mania involved, but I can promise you not an ounce of it was negative. Perhaps in his own mind, none of it was negative. However, his total subscriber graph told a different story. Since he began to lose his mind in 2020, Connor has lost over 150,000 subscribers and now barely gains over 1 million views per month. He'd also mentioned in a recent video that he didn't have any money left.
Moral of the story is that I'm broke. So if you have a business opportunity for me, maybe you want to help me get some brand deals and make some commission. At this point, I have zero shame and I'm open to pretty much anything.
However, he does sound fairly sarcastic, so this might have been a joke. The silver lining to the story is that Connor has deleted almost all evidence of his crazy spiritual phase, replacing it with fitness content as he had posted in the past. His spiritual channel titled Connor Murphy Talks, on which he used to post incoherent ramblings, went completely silent until 1 month ago, at which point Connor returned. Normal articulate story relating to his high school days in which he's looking and sounding substantially healthier than he had been 12 months ago. Almost all of his comments discuss the obvious recent improvement in Connor's life, so hopefully his insanity was nothing more than a minor hiccup in what will become an incredibly successful life over the long term.
And that video was made 4 years ago. And that's what's so sad, is this was a video 4 years ago describing and hopefully that Connor would be able to turn his life around and get things on track. But this was him talking about Jesus Christ fairly recently.
It's actually real. It's just God changing forms. You're immortal, motherfucker. But also you could be physically immortal if you just reverse your biological age. It's been done before. It really, like, you can really, I'm literally immortal, okay? Like, what the fuck? I mean, you could come kill me if you want, but realize that I'm also infinitely more intelligent than you. I know all sorts of Taekwondo skills, and I have, like, bodyguards all over this place, so you actually can't come kill me because you're controlled by fear right now. And so when you're actually brave enough to come and see me, you will be cleansed, you will be free, and you'll be a disciple. See, I didn't do it right last time. I fucked up last time. Oh, man, my past experience of Jesus Christ, they fucking killed me. Oh, man, I really messed up. No, you motherfuckers, are you fucking kidding me? You think some man fucking died and rose on a fucking cross? Are you out of your goddamn mind? That doesn't actually...
This was another video of him talking about his spirituality in the quantum field.
This feels fucking incredible, dude. Like, I've been experiencing this the past week. Like, this feeling that we're experiencing of just pure, you get to be yourself. It's the weirdest feeling. Because you realize that in the universe, I'm on this prophecy, bro. I'm on this prophecy, okay? It started a week ago when I was reborn from this ayahuasca trip. So I was reborn on this. I have a friend that actually did ayahuasca, so I have a lot of experience, guys. So I was reborn from this ayahuasca trip.
I have a friend who did ayahuasca, guys. I know a lot about it. I have a friend who did it. Okay. And that's why I went and just got hammered on ayahuasca and it totally lost my sense of self and my personality and everything that I had going for me. My friend did ayahuasca, guys. So trust me.
I felt like I was a baby. Like, as in, I was in this Connor body, but I had zero thought.
Sincerely says, why do they always blast? Because it's demonic, guys. This is a demonic influence. That's why all these people talking about Connor, nobody's bringing up the obvious, that he was living with a form of possession. And that's why he was so schizophrenic in the last 2 years and all these alter egos. And I'll show you a few of them here in a few. He was demonically possessed, and schizophrenia is a common personality trait of people dealing with demonic possession.
Zero concept of the world, and it felt incredible, this amazing sense of wonder. And so all of a sudden the thoughts kind of, you know, the ego started forming, and I lost it, but then I learned how to gain it back. This shit is inside of us, and It's this energy, it's this God energy inside all of us. And so when you put yourself with someone with this God energy, you feed off of it. You know, when you put yourself in a...
Yeah, sincerely, I agree. But there's people in the chat that, or maybe not a lot of people who follow my channel, but there's certainly people that shoo that away. All his close friends around him that witnessed his downfall and didn't stop it, dismissed the idea that he was possessed by demons or that demonic influence had anything to do with this. They think it's just Connor being Connor. That's just how he was. But obviously with your avatar there of an Orthodox priest, I know that you believe in spiritual warfare. You're Eastern Orthodox probably, but my gosh, it's amazing how few people have actually brought up the fact that this is what the demons do. And even think about his death, guys. This is one of the sad things. You know, we just covered in a previous stream, I was talking about the 2 demoniacs that Christ heals, where he comes and he exorcises the demons. And it was when I was promoting and talking about the Nephilim. And, you know, in the Logos Academy, we are reading the book of Enoch, and we're doing a bunch of other stuff. We meet every single Tuesday. So if you guys are interested in an all men's community where we dive deep into a variety of different topics, you should join the Logos Academy. I'll share that link. But I was doing a stream on the Nephilim. And in that video, I talked about the time that Christ exorcised the demoniacs, puts the demons in the pigs, and then they run into the water and drown. And you almost feel like that's what happened to Connor in a way. Not that the demons were exorcised, but think about it. He runs away from the police when he's having a manic episode, runs straight into the lake behind his house, and then ends up drowning, just like the pigs, just like the swine.
More accepting environment. Your house is so much more accepting than your fucking college, right? And you feel yourself becoming more of yourself. You feel yourself becoming more comfortable. Homie, your old YouTube videos, you weren't comfortable at all. You were suffering. That uncomfortableness is pure suffering, and we don't recognize it. Now, we actually get to be ourselves. There's nothing, literally nothing we can't do. Think about it, bro. If this feeling, like this was me for a while, it was and all of a sudden it was like and all of a sudden it started getting exponential. If here's death, right? It's exponential. This stuff, you can use tools such as meditation and stop thinking and stop having this insight, and you can get back down to earth.
And time stops. Time freezes. The quantum field is infinite, endless, and you can tap into it at any moment.
Holy fuck.
These people are retarded. But you know, it's right around this era, but the video we're watching, 2020 to 2021, where I told you guys, at least allegedly, what he presented on camera. We don't know if these were skits or these were faked in some way, but he began drinking his own urine, eating his own semen, and his own fecal matter. There was a video that's supposedly deleted that people saw. So I don't have any proof. This is just alleged based on things that I was reading online, where he ate his own feces. And this was even covered by More Plates, More Dates. You can go back and find More Plates, More Dates video talking about Connor Murphy, and he claims that he witnessed this and saw this. So I don't know if he shared it in a personal group chat or something, but just absolutely crazy stuff. Yeah. So getting back to, you know, all this Connor Murphy stuff, I want to show you, this is just from, what was it, 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago. This was a live stream to his channel, Connor Murphy. And this is what I mean by sin, the psychedelics, the demonic possession, doing things that you shouldn't be doing, where he's talking with this guy in the center. So these are Looksmaxxers. This is Tony Huge right here. This is this guy right here, Tony Huge, with him in this live stream talking about this guy having some type of polyamorous relationship with his wife, apparently, and giving Connor permission to sleep with his wife. And it was actually, there's a video you can find of Connor Murphy apologizing for sleeping with this guy's wife because apparently there was some type of tensions afterwards and all this different stuff. Paul throws in 5, says, this reminds me of when I went through spiritual warfare. It is just as you say, they love trauma. My family has many generations of it. Exactly. And that's why these satanic ritual cults, satanic ritual abuse is all about making sure that children experience trauma at an early age. This is why the recidivism rate of PDF stuff is so big. You think recidivism in prison is bad, alcoholism, people trying to quit alcoholism is bad. Well, you look at trauma after having, you know, sexual abuse, these kids that are molested by priests or, you know, YMCA leaders, Boy Scout leaders, whoever it may be, their uncle diddling them as a kid, because that circuitry, especially if they orgasm, right? There's a bunch of academic studies on this, so it's not like I'm making this up. But as a young kid, if you experience an orgasm for the first time with like some adult male who is diddling you, it creates a circuitry in your brain that is very difficult to break. And so the recidivism rate of people who are abused as kids that go on to become PDFs is quite substantial because of the sexual circuitry that was first implanted. Because as you guys know, if you create new habits, you know, the brain fires on circuits. And so to create new habits, you have to fire new circuits, which is very difficult because of habitual processes. So if you get molested as a child and then you reflect on that and think about that, or if you're some kid and experience it as like a pleasurable thing, you're going to grow up and reinforce that same circuitry. So this was Connor Murphy just 2 years ago. This is the time that he moves to Thailand. So he's now in Thailand at this point.
We're live, Connor Murphy. Are we live? Okay. I'm going to be checking it right now. We'll see if we're live.
Yep. Make sure you can see the videos live as the people come in. And then how about you tell them what the topic is first?
Okay. Well, this is very exciting. This is
and this is a big graphic. So anybody's watching this, and hopefully you're not watching this with children or anything, but we're only going to watch like the first 5 minutes of this video because I can't really listen to it. I can't really stomach it, but I just want to show you guys where Connor Murphy was going even 2 years ago. This is a live stream to his YouTube channel. You can see he's back on gear. He's getting his physique back, and you can see now people speculated is his jaw, those implants. He claims that he just grew them by, masticating gum that's supposed to strengthen your jaw muscles. So I'm just warning everybody, this can be a bit graphic.
Episode 1 of the Yes Humper podcast. So this was inspired by, of course, Adam 22's No Jumper podcast. Recently, there was quite the controversy. He let his wife film an adult scene with another man. It went extremely viral. And I was like, man, I really need to do that. You know, that'd be fun just for the views, just for business purposes, of course. And so today, here we are. I'm here with It's Katie Fit. It's Robbie Oz, Nita, and Tony. And after this, I will be having a sexual encounter with Katie on OnlyFans, which is Rob's wife.
Yeah.
So that should be really fun. Wow, we can see it's live right up here on the TV.
Yeah.
So if you didn't realize, Connor started his own OnlyFans.
That is awesome.
Hey guys.
Wow. Okay, cool. So yeah, of course, this is Tony Hughes. That is his girlfriend, Nita. And I am Connor Murphy. This is very exciting. I've been wanting to do this type of podcast for a while. And Katie, I'm very excited for today. You know, podcast will be fun, but the after party should be even more fun.
Hey, Crispy, go ahead and ban that observer guy. Just get him out of here. I don't want him in the chat anymore.
But I want to be extremely respectful for Rob. You know what I mean? Like Jason Love, he seemed to be not so respectful afterwards, you know? He was making fun of Adam quite a lot. And he just didn't seem to handle it with the composure that I'm seeking to. So, Rob, I want to make sure, do you have any boundaries? Right?
Yeah.
Do you have any boundaries that you want to prohibit me from doing with Katie?
Yeah, well, I guess we've only got a few.
Yes, drop the ban hammer. Thank you, Austin. Appreciate you, brother. We don't need none of these retards in the chat. You just get out of here. He's a shadow observer. Just drop Thor's ban hammer on him. Get him out of here. He can go to, Pastor Steven Anderson or wherever place he wants to go. He doesn't need to be here. This is an Orthodox channel. We're not putting up with any disparaging comments about our church. This isn't a place for them to debate it. If you want to hear the content, you can come. If not, get out of here. We just ban these people. Drop Thor's ban hammer. Any of the mods, anybody's distracting or wanting to debate whether Orthodoxy is true, just drop the ban hammer on them. Get them out of here. Hey, shout out to Cleve. I see Cleve to Antiquity in the chat.
Things, there are probably things that we do together, and that would probably be anal. She always kind of says, oh, I love you in my ass, stuff like that, and probably cream pies because she's not on a pill. So yeah, I guess that'd be the two things that kind of we reserved for us, and outside of that, it's pretty open.
Interesting. That's funny.
Do accidental cream pies happen though? Well, I mean, Connor, do you have good enough pull-out control? Your pull-out game?
Like, this is the type of content these guys were making. This is the Looksmaxxing community in Thailand. This is the stuff that they do. It's absolutely degenerate. Absolutely degenerate. This is, again, the ingratiation of diving deeper into sin due to what the psychedelics and the portals that he opened up for possession, what they've done to him. Yeah, Coomer maxing. Absolutely Coomer maxing. These guys are massive Coomers. He started his own OnlyFans. He was recording OnlyFans content. Now, I have no idea what's on there and not interested in watching any of it. Yeah, who watches this stuff? Good question. Good question. Who watches all this Looksmaxxing degenerate content? Yes, Humper podcast. And even this Tony Huge guy, when he begins his video talking about Connor Murphy, he's talking about, yeah, one of my girlfriends is upset because I posted a photo with another woman. What? Like, these people are absolutely degenerate. Wicked Wally, what's wrong with you people using ban hammers? Hammers are flat. Axes hurt more. Yeah. The ban axe. Yeah. We'll just say they're getting axed from the chat. How's that? Anybody causing a kerfuffle in the chat, just axe them from the chat. Or you can use Thor's banhammer, either one. Oh, man, Dr. Klaus Schwab is in the chat tonight. Shout out to Dr. Klaus Schwab becoming a Codal Crew member. Thank you very much, brother. And I can't listen to much more of this, but I'm just going to play a couple minutes just so you can see what these people are up to. And then I'm going to go on to the next video.
Well, I guess we'll see. I guess we'll put it to the test. But what's interesting is that Adam22, he set a boundary for his wife. He said that there could be no facials, right? So he said, Jason Love, please, no facials. But then Jason Love gave Lena a cream pie, which, I mean, I guess it's all subjective, but I would consider that probably a more extreme scenario.
Yeah. Feel free to give her a facial. Okay. I mean,
I appreciate that. Okay. Yeah. So I'll try and stay away from the anal and the cream pies.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Comment says, let her peg you, Connor. Does that mean that she puts a strap on?
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah.
Have you ever done that before, Connor?
I personally haven't, but I mean, if there are enough likes, maybe 10,000 likes.
Katie, you want to take his virginity?
So this guy who's claiming to be spiritually enlightened is willing to get pegged on an OnlyFans page for likes and clicks. Totally demonic, guys. Totally demonic. Yes, I told you guys, I warned you ahead of time. I warned you ahead of time that this is difficult to listen to. I wouldn't be surprised if he did gay porn. According to Connor, as I told you guys, he slept with lady boys because he found it difficult to sleep with women at one point. I think I'm going to be ill. Bingo VP says, peg the ego out of you. Oh my gosh. All right. Anyways, he goes on to talk about how he's willing to do anything for clicks and likes. This was the last interview he did with another content creator talking about his Looksmaxxing. So this is Connor, what it seems to be in a more sober state of mind. Peg vaccine. It is. These people listen to Alan Watts for sure. Absolutely. Neo says, did you know Connor dunk another man's life? I don't know exactly what that means, but no, I don't know. I don't know exactly what that means. Degenerates, and they see nothing wrong with that picture. I know, they're proud about it. That's what's so astonishing, is how proud they are about it. Semen. Yeah. No, he was consuming semen. At least what he claimed it was on camera. Yes. Connor drank another man's semen, and Lord have mercy on him, man. You know, I pray for his family. How difficult would it be to be his mother and father right now? It's crazy. Everybody in the chat should say a prayer for Connor Murphy's soul tonight, because he needs it. And we're Orthodox. We believe that our prayers can have some effectiveness on the soul of the deceased. The guy was tormented by demons, clearly. Tormented by demons. So this is titled Connor Murphy's Last Interview. And this was posted yesterday, but apparently it was the week leading up to his death.
All right, back here once again with Connor Murphy, asking him a couple more questions. First of all, you've been creating more Looksmaxxing content lately. What's making you want to get more into Looksmaxxing? And you just recently dyed your eyebrows as well. You're starting to get more into it yourself. Where's this coming from?
Okay. So one of my main issues with the original character I created is that everyone took it way too seriously. They didn't realize that the guy who went and presumptuously disrobed in front of women was an act, and they made it their life mission to essentially improve their physique max as far as possible in order to gain validation from women. They thought that was their life's purpose, okay? They didn't realize that this was more of a fun, comedic character, and they took it too seriously. I think it would be hilarious if I restarted my YouTube channel, if there was this rebirth where essentially I repeated the same exact formula, but it's just neck up instead of neck down. So I'm basically doing Connor Murphy natural face transformation. Connor Murphy shows off his jawline on Omegle, and so it's face reveals and everything's about the face. And it should be so redundant and obvious that it's just a character. Hopefully, and I'm even coming out with an original satirical video about Looksmaxxing, along with some more philosophical perspectives that actually defend many parts of Looksmaxxing. Many Looksmaxxers are actually far more secure and philosophical and well-rounded than the average person, which is funny. It's more of the followers, the people who are following these Looksmaxxers tend to get the wrong idea and tend to be.
Yeah, I feel like the community as a whole is kind of why it gets toxic rather than the creators themselves.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, I want to show people.
Boomer Slayer, what exactly is the religions of Thailand? I believe Buddhism is the predominant religion. I believe it's Mahayana Buddhism. So, yeah. Official state religion is Buddhism. Yeah. And I believe Thailand still has a king.
That you don't have to take Looksmaxxing that seriously. Instead of it being a life or death situation, because it's not, by the way, there are ugly people that get way more girls than attractive people. There are ugly people that are way richer than attractive people. It's like, yeah, it's a stat that you should optimize, but you should treat your character like a character in a video game. Optimize as many skills as you can so you can complete as many quests as possible. But don't neglect other areas of your well-being just for superficial vanity.
Again, this is the irony. He says one thing and does the opposite. He's warning people not to be obsessed by vanity, and yet he's talking about being pegged on an OnlyFans page for likes and clicks and money. And this is what I mean. It's like he can conceptually know and articulate what he should say, but he engages and does the opposite.
You might become out of balance, and of course your looks are going to fade, and if you're attached to them for too long, you're going to suffer. So basically, I just want to mog. I want to become the best Looksmaxxer of all time, so I can offer these young kids more propitious perspectives. And I think that I can really positively impact the Looksmaxxing world, and it's going to be really fun to see how people respond to me basically repeating the same type of content, just doing it neck up instead of neck down.
So anyways, they just talk, think this guy on the left is some type of Looksmaxxer, and this is supposedly his close friend. This is this Tony Huge guy that was friends with Leo in Longevity, was friends with Connor Murphy, and this is the video he uploaded. And my thought was, if I knew Connor Murphy like this guy did and spent all that time with him and made all that content, I feel like I would be a little bit more emotional talking about him, but maybe he just holds it together. Maybe he's just more masculine than me. I don't know, you know, but his YouTube channel is called Tony Huge, and he basically talks about gear and stuff like that. But almost every video reflecting on Connor Murphy has clips from this, because he's the one that was talking about how much gold he was taking and how he had superhuman abilities, which I'll play for you. But listen to how he opens up the video reflecting on the death of a friend.
Consulted a lot of close friends and mutual friends, and the consensus was that I should make a video right now before a bunch of rumors and people think it's a stunt or something like that, because especially of who Connor Murphy and his character is, that he is a prankster, that he comes off as seeming crazy in his videos, and that if it came off as seeing a stunt, then like it would be something negative. I don't know. I'm honestly, my brain's not working very well right now, so I just jumped on camera at the advice of a consensus of people that I asked how I should handle this, and then it's been a really long day, and I'm still processing this because it doesn't seem real. Because I thought, like, you know, Connor is such a interesting guy and very unique and such a prankster that a lot of times with Connor, you don't know whether something's real or not. So even my brain is like, oh, this is all a trick. This can't be real. And then I got home and, oh my gosh, one of my girlfriends is harassing me about the fact that I posted a picture of another girl on my Instagram and all this kind of stuff. So I'm just like blindsided with that when I don't have the mental capacity for it.
What? You're doing a eulogy video to a friend of yours who you were just with for filming content, and you're talking about how your brain is clouded because one of your girlfriends is upset because you posted an Instagram photo with another chick. One of my yeah, exactly. I hope everyone picked that up. One of my girlfriends is upset, and I'm just blown away right now. I just don't have the mental capacity. What? One of your, yeah, you can't make this stuff up. This is one of his friends. I mean, you go on Connor's page, this guy's in so many of his videos. So off topic. Exactly. It's like he's flexing how many girlfriends he has. Wow. While eulogizing a friend who just died. Yeah, come on, guys. Help me reach my super chat goal. If you appreciate content, you appreciate my work, send in your church tithes. You know, everybody's got a tithe. Give me your 10%. Thank you, Crispy. I appreciate you saying that in the chat, man. God bless you. Yeah, it is an L flex. But, I mean, this is like the Andrew Tate sphere. Yeah, 99 problems, and they're all my girlfriends. It's just crazy.
Nocturnal Kent, one of the other maxers of the looks, and friends of the group of Androgenic and Connor Murphy, he had a aneurysm a few days ago, and there was a whole bunch of reaction videos that he had died because of the aneurysm, but actually,
Yeah, Smash Your Boy says, can we even consider him as a friend? Even now, after I thought the same thing. I couldn't imagine if a friend of mine drowned after having a manic episode and apparently, according to his girlfriend, didn't sleep for 2 days. You'd think there'd be a little bit more emotion than this.
he didn't die, and he posted a video saying that he only told a couple close people, and then it leaked out, and then he just watched how this thing snowballed into this big conspiracy theory about dying from an aneurysm, and he's actually alive.
So anyways, I'll skip forward to where he starts talking about Connor having supernatural powers.
Achieving these abilities, but there was one dangerous experiment. I'll just give you the straight facts first of all. Connor Murphy was living on a golf course in Bangkok, and it's very beautiful, and he has a nice house there, and it's literally on the water. Like his back balcony is.
Okay, thank you, Ortho Bro 7773. I don't know anything about Tony Huge. I didn't spend time looking into him, but according to Ortho Bro, Tony Huge has a harem in Thailand. It's a big focus of his content. Okay, I did not know that. I did not know that. But even then, like, why bring that up when you're eulogizing a friend? It's so weird.
You can see from his Instagram and the things he posts. So in the end, he drowned in his backyard lake. And there's a lot more things that led up to that, but that is how he ended up passing away, drowning. Up until his passing, he was discovering that he had achieved some superhuman abilities. And it's no joke. He actually did achieve some superhuman abilities. And a lot of his friends and I were supportive, of course, like a friend that has big dreams and of him achieving these abilities. But there was one dangerous experiment. I call it levels of biohacking. So level 1 biohacking is get sunlight, circadian rhythm, exercise, diet, nutrition, all the basic stuff you're allowed to talk about. And then as you go up through the levels of biohacking, it becomes more powerful and also more risky. Connor and I started doing a video on one of his channels talking about this and how he was getting closer to meeting God and developing superhuman powers. And I'm skeptical, right? It's like a father and son, or like a friend that's giving another friend feedback on their plans. When one friend says they want to be a famous actor or something, and then, the parents might say, oh, you can't be an actor. You need to be an accountant. You need to go to college for this, and you need to be part of the system. And the young boy has big dreams of doing something outside of the system. Well, Connor, of course, his head has been outside the system since he was 18, because he became an influencer in his 18. And his two goals were to be a influencer that had a huge impact on people, to raise their level of consciousness, help them make healthier choices, and also to become a professional golfer, but not just any professional golfer, a professional golfer that seriously changed the game. And he did develop a golf swing and superhuman golf abilities. He did test his skills against professional golfers and found he is at professional golfing level, and that he could potentially win large golf competitions. And he developed those skills through developing his superpowers. Most of his biohacking was for the intention of developing those various different superhuman abilities, including especially golf, his real passion and obsession. So he figured that and he did his research, and he had the hypothesis that gold, if you can get it into every cell in your body, would have some special power of like conductivity of the electro pulses that go through the body, and also connect you to the metaphysical world. So Connor went to the gold shop and he bought gold bars, and he bought gold necklaces, and he bought gold bracelets, bought a lot of different gold things, and he put it in water with 2 electrodes going through it and some intricate system with the amount of electricity and the frequency, and everything was very calculated. He had a whole protocol. I don't know the very detailed specifics of the protocol because I was not interested in injecting gold in myself, but I was interested to see, like, if it works for him, maybe someday I would consider it. But okay, that's an experiment. That's a level 10. Maybe I'm just a level 9 biohacker and Connor was a level 10 biohacker, but that was just beyond the scope of what I was willing to experiment with.
And according to, and I forget which Looksmaxxer, though, I watched some video of a random channel who knew Connor, another Looksmaxxer lives in Thailand, and they were claiming the weeks leading up to Connor's death, his skin began to look like a goldish hue, that he was injecting so much gold in his body that you could like see it shimmer, according to this guy, on his face and on his skin and like his arms and stuff, and that his pigmentation of his skin was actually changing through this experiment.
A lot of Connor's friends and I were really nervous about injecting gold. I mean, I was nervous because I think as a metal, especially in nanoparticle size, once it gets in the cell, I'm not sure that the human body has a mechanism to chelate that. And actually, when I was giving him warnings about this, I did look up some of the basic chelators that we use, or chelators, you could say, that can detox the body of various metals. Again, sorry, my brain is really scattered right now. I'm still trying to process this. And yeah, my girlfriend bitching at me when I get home about what picture I posted on Instagram. Absolutely absurd, because she knows that this happened too.
Again, bringing that up again, and this video is edited. It's jumping from like clip to clip. He's clearly cutting out like sections and dead space in the video. And he keeps all these sections talking about one of his girlfriends being upset. It's unbelievable. Smash Ya Boy throws in 5. Thank you, Smash Ya Boy. Long live Israel. Yes, we love Israel. YouTube, we love Israel over here. Don't take down my channel. You've taken down so many of my videos talking about the Iran war. We love Israel. We're on Israel's side. Long live Bibi Netanyahu. Thank you, Smash Ya Boy. I appreciate it. Anthony throws in 10, says, do you think there's a connection between biohacking and alchemy? Absolutely. Absolutely. I thought that was an astute point that I should have brought up earlier. And it connects again back when I was obsessed with psychedelics and psychedelic spirituality. I was very involved in studying Western esoteric traditions, the alchemical processes, sublimation, transmutation, coagulation. And those guys back in the day were doing the same thing. Like, there were so many 16th century alchemists that died from injecting mercury and lead and all this different stuff in their body, thinking that they would be able to use it as the elixir of immortality. And remember, I just showed you a video of Connor Murphy literally claiming that he's eternal, he's immortal. And it has to do with all his biohacking and that he can reverse aging and that he's becoming younger. It is absolutely the same paradigm of the Renaissance alchemist, from the Renaissance into the 16th century and even into the early 17th century. These guys were doing exactly that. John Dee's experimentations with Edward Kelly, going back to the Holy Roman Empire and Rudolph II, where he demanded that they transmutate lead into gold. And of course, remember that story. I should do a whole stream just on John Dee. But John Dee, the most educated man in all of England, the basis for the 007 movie, right? He's the first international spy. Queen Elizabeth of the English Empire commissions John Dee, because he's being requested by all these other princes and kings throughout Europe to come do horoscopes, because he was considered the greatest astronomer, as well as an alchemist and a magician. And he was deeply influenced by Hermeticism and the Corpus Hermeticum that gets translated by Marsilio Ficino, all this different stuff. Well, John Dee, he goes going through the courts of Europe with this guy, Edward Kelly, who has his ears cut off. Back in the day, if you were found to be a con artist, they would cut your ears off so that wherever you went, people would know that you were found to be a con artist. So they know they wouldn't trust you and that they'd keep a hand on their wallet. You know what I mean? Well, Edward Kelly travels with John Dee and they create the Enochian language, which is supposed to be the language of the angels. And they do all these conjuration rituals where they conjure that they claimed were angels, obviously were demons. And John Dee would speak and Edward Kelly would dictate what these demons were telling John Dee. And this is where they found this whole Enochian, you can look into it, it's still called Enochian angelology, Enochian magic, the Enochian language. This is all going back to this magical period with John Dee and Edward Kelly. Well, as they developed this massive reputation, and at one point the ritual stopped working. John Dee is obsessed with getting this knowledge of the eternal realm, and he wants to know how everything works. Well, they get to the court of Rudolph II, I'm sorry. Rudolph II, this fat king of the Holy Roman Empire, moved the capital to Prague. And this is where you get the golem myths of some of the Jewish rabbis and Kabbalah about creating these golems. Prague was one of the only places in Europe that allowed the Jews to practice their Kabbalah. They allowed for alchemy. The court of Rudolph, when you see the archetype of the Mad King, where he has like dwarfs and bare-breasted women and, clowns or, jesters juggling things. This is the court of Rudolph II. He was obsessed with magic and the esoteric, the occult. And John Dee and Edward Kelly come to his court. And while they're there, Rudolph II imprisons them. I mean, puts them in a nice room, but says, you cannot leave my court until you show me how you can transmutate lead into gold, because he wanted to become incredibly wealthy. And he thought this stuff would work. Well, of course, none of these rituals work. Edward Kelly convinces John Dee, and they're traveling with their wives. And John Dee had a much younger wife because he was so prominent in England and famous and wealthy. It's claimed that he had the largest library in all of England, more than the Queen herself, Queen Elizabeth. And Edward Kelly convinces John Dee that the angels told him to get the magic to start working again, they have to be swinger, they have to wife swap. And so Edward Kelly, this gross con man who's helping John Dee perform these rituals, sleeps with John Dee's wife against her will. She refuses to do it. He forces her to do it. Edward Kelly essentially rapes her. And of course, the angels don't answer. The magic doesn't work. Luckily for John Dee, he gets called back to England by Queen Elizabeth, who dies shortly after. And Edward Kelly's stuck there trying to perform these alchemical rituals of transmutating lead into gold. And he ends up trying to flee one night and leave. And what happens, he climbs on top of the building and he slips off one of the Spanish tiles of this castle that Rudolph II has him locked up in, and he dies. His wife lives. I believe she was let go. But John Dee then gets back to England. Queen Elizabeth dies. James I becomes king. This was James, the King of Scotland. He's the first English king that is both the King of Scotland and England. James I becomes the King of England, and he despises magic. And he essentially tarnishes John Dee's reputation so bad. That's why so many people have never heard of John Dee in history. And this is King James. King James, the King James Bible, that's James I of England. He's the one that commissioned the new translation of the New Testament that we now know as the King James Bible. That's the King James I'm talking about. And so notice wife swapping. We just highlighted that Connor was dealing with the same stuff. He did it on OnlyFans with some guy's wife in Thailand. You can't help but notice these commonalities when you're dealing with occult spirituality and these esoteric traditions and what these angels were telling these guys back in the 16th century. And so John Dee ends up dying essentially in shame. All of his money is taken. His house, he had this beautiful house that's taken from him. He dies in poverty in obscurity, essentially. And this is one of the reasons why so few people have ever heard of John Dee, the great magician. So great point, Anthony. Sorry I went down that tangent. Maybe I should do a full stream on John Dee if you guys want. But yeah, it's absolutely this biohacking and Connor's obsession with injecting himself with gold. It's absolutely it's a neo alchemy. It's modern day alchemy. XX Lockstep throws in 10, says underrated channel. You hit so many topics from an academic and spiritual perspective in a way that still allows my slow boy brain to comprehend. Thank you for the content. Well, thank you, XX Lockstep. It's one of the things that I try to pride myself on is my content is that I try to cover a wide variety of stuff. And so I really appreciate your support, all your support, man. You've been very supportive of my channel and my work. So thank you very much, brother. I really appreciate that. Anthony throws in 19, says, used to listen to Tony Huge 5 to 6 years ago. He used to not be like this, but he takes a lot of stuff constantly. He has always been weird, but the compounds have rotted his brain. This group all presupposes evolution, by the way. Yeah, no, I'll show you videos of Connor saying the exact same thing, that God is essentially that it's very Hegelian. If you guys are familiar with like German idealism and Hegel's whole idea of the dialectical synthesis, the Hegelian dialectic, that self and other is performing this synthetic process that's going to culminate in what he called the logos, that Christ's incarnation for Hegel was potentially historical, but he kind of dismissed it because he thought knowledge was advancing through history. So Hegel, he believed that Christ was going to essentially manifest himself as a conscious universe. And that was the eschatological endpoint of the Hegelian dialectic in Hegel's philosophical works. So again, do I think Connor Murphy or these Looksmaxxers or any of these guys are familiar with Hegel's philosophy? Of course not. But this stuff isn't new. And Hegel, he diminished the importance of scripture because he thought whatever was written in scripture could not be as true as his own philosophy and what was coming forth at that point in history. So yeah, I don't know Tony Huge. I'm not disparaging him. I've seen a lot of videos that have accused him of some type of foul play with Leo and longevity. I don't know that. I'm not saying that. Don't know the guy. My only experience with Tony Huge is in prep for this video and watching his attempted eulogy of Connor Murphy. Austin DeTulio throws in 5, no comment. Austin, thank you very much, brother, for holding down the chat and getting all the retards out. Smeshia Boy throws in 5, says, remember, guys, to send your daily blessings to Israel and baby Yahoo. Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's so funny that Clavicular is getting escorted around Israel by the IDF, and it's speculated that he may be doing a stream with Bibi Netanyahu in the near future. We'll see. But, oh, we just needed 10 more for the goal. Dang. Oh, well, we still got a few more things to get through here. So let's pump out a little bit more content. So anyways, getting back to the stream, thank you all so much for your support. I really, really appreciate it. Tony Huge talking a little bit about, he thinks that Connor Murphy actually was gaining superhuman powers. He was worried about all this gold injecting stuff. You get it. Again, one of the things I was surprised about in this video is that there's not a whole lot of emotion in it. At no point does he really like break down in tears or anything like that. And we've already seen, I'm not going to go back. This is him talking about drinking his own urine in public. But here's a few of these videos of Connor recently.
You did YouTube, you had like a generational run. I was looking at your page, it had like 60 million views on a video, all this. What happened after that crazy run that you did? Like, what was the story after? Because a lot of people just don't know.
Well, You know, I think that the unilateral narrative online is completely correct. I kind of went batshit crazy, and I'm still batshit crazy. You know, everything that I post online is just a perfect reflection of my true personality. You know, I went broke. Now I live in this shitty lake house on a golf course in this exotic location, and my life is terrible. And my life after that was just a terrible series of unfortunate events. And yeah, there's no deeper meaning to anything that I did, and everyone is just actually completely correct about me. And you know, now I'm just really depressed, and I'm just honored that someone cares about me enough to do an interview with me, Dylan.
As you
Again, I don't know if he's acting or not, but that's just sad. Because if that was true, although again, I'll show you his content, whether he's acting or not, nobody really knows. But he seems to be very self-aware of his life and what happened to him. This is him claims that the gym niche is evolving into Looksmaxxing, that Looksmaxxing is going to be the biggest and best thing on YouTube as opposed to like gym culture and fitness culture.
Came up as one of like the main faces within the gym niche. I feel like you kind of formed it a little bit. And I wanted to ask, do you think honestly that the gym niche is falling off and dying now, or do you think it's just going to keep getting bigger?
I'm not sure. Probably the fitness content on social media probably has already peaked. Now there's this Looksmaxxing movement, which I think is more comprehensive. It's like I was just focused on the physique, but now these Looksmaxxers are focused on like every aspect of their appearance. So I think that the Looksmaxxing is just kind of the next step. It's the next evolution of what I was doing.
And then this is him being asked about whether his jaw is real or not, or it's implants.
Recently talked about pinning your face with some sort of growth hormone type thing and bone smashing your zygos. How has that been going?
I was really interested in bone smashing. Why? Because it seems like absolute bullshit, like, right? Like, what do you're going to grow your bones? Like, how do you grow your bones? But then I didn't want to undermine all these people's experience. And then I met Andrew Janik, and he's extremely honest and open about all his surgeries. And he claimed that he grew the mass in his face. I was like, okay, there has to be something there. And the more research I did, I realized that, yeah, bone smashing, like incontrovertibly, absolutely works.
And there's another one. I'm not going to find it or anything, but it's from that same conversation where he talks about how his jaw, he got it from it. You know, the guy's like, dude, you have a massive jaw. How did you get that? And he claims that he was just chewing, masticating gum for 7 hours for like 9 months every single day. But again, I don't even know how much more we should watch of this stuff. It's really sad. You know, like some of his final stuff is him, what appears to be, you know, going crazy. This is the lake behind his house that he ends up drowning in. You can see he's underneath his home, pretending to be like some Australian crocodile hunter. You know, and he claimed that he was, by injecting gold, he was running faster. He was, you know, this one right here has a million views of him trying to shape his hairline. You know, this has almost 1 million views right here of him like having these Thai girls riding. Just really bizarre stuff, man. Really bizarre stuff. This has 1.8 million views, and he's, notice again, he's lost his ego, right? He's God incarnate, right? Why is he always wearing Gucci and Burberry and Louis Vuitton? Like, you look at these, almost all of his recent videos, he's got like super expensive clothing on.
I can say what I want about the situation, but what I will say is that I was in the U.S. and I'm no longer in the U.S. Stay fucked. I'm no longer in the U.S.
Just, again, demonic possession. Like, one of the things he claimed in like this interview with your mate Tom
spending time with Tom.
is that his pineal gland like produces so much dimethyltryptamine now that he doesn't even need to take drugs. Although you watch his videos, his pupils are dilated and it looks like he's on drugs. So this was, again, just 3 weeks or a few weeks before his death from the documentary they said was going on Hulu.
We just had some late nights, and so I've been a little bit tired. So
Do you drink?
I don't drink alcohol. No, I use the alcohol alternatives like gabapentin or pregabalin. And so, no, that's my alcohol.
Does that
alternative.
change your state of consciousness?
Yeah,
in
for
a significant way?
No, it can be pretty salient. I mean, it's not like you get intoxicated like on alcohol where you can't drive or something like that, but it provides you the lower inhibitions that people are seeking from alcohol. And so it's just a better drug than like it's just a superior drug.
Yeah, alcohol's very overrated.
No, it's so because I tried it at my cousin's wedding. I was just in the US and man, it just made me tired. Like I think after using the superior supplements for so long, I just realized what a shit drug alcohol was, and I just felt it was like a net negative. Like even while I was drunk, I was just like, this kind of sucks. Like I'm just more tired and I'm less cognitively sharp. Like I would way rather just take pregabalin.
Makes you tired, like you start slurring your words, and the older you get, the worse it affects you. You get sadder too, like, you know.
And that's the thing, you're sacrificing pleasure in the present, or so you're sacrificing future pleasure for pleasure in the present. I don't want to do that. Like if I take a compound to increase my positive emotion in the present, I want it to either be a net neutral or a net positive for my future self, right? For me, when I use compounds, I always want them to make me like more productive in some way, you know? I never want to just take a compound to where I just like sit there and rot.
Yeah, and it's that kind of paradox of like the people who usually have that craving or need to alter their state, especially more often than not, you're probably not going to be very content with your baseline state of consciousness, right?
Yeah.
The more I kind of worked on that baseline state of consciousness, then that temptation of wanting to smoke goes away.
Yeah. Well, and you also have to ask yourself, like, why are you wanting to alter your states of consciousness? Is it to like improve yourself and increase your neuroplasticity? Is it to enhance your reality, or is it try to escape your reality? Because some people use drugs in order to try and escape the reality, but some people use drugs in order to enhance the reality. Like the reality they already appreciate, and they're just trying to like enhance it. And I would definitely be in the latter group, right?
Yeah.
So I really love my life, and I'm just trying to like optimize it. I'm trying to be the best biohacker that I can. I'm trying to improve my neuroplasticity and cognitive function the best that I can. And beneficial mood effects are, of course, a favorable byproduct of that. And so, but yeah, I'm always cautious. I'm always asking myself, like, if I'm using a compound, am I using it to try to escape something? But especially right now, like the answer is certainly not, you know, which is good.
Well, like you said, depends on the substance and the person.
Yeah.
For example, like I can take mushrooms once or twice a year and I don't feel that need, like, oh, I need a trip again. But man, I have one joint. Well, I feel like I'm right back into like daily, even if I trick myself into thinking, I can do this.
That's why psychedelics are so cool, is because they're just not very addictive.
Anti-addictive.
They can help cure addictions. I mean, yeah, sure, like someone could be addicted to them psychologically, but usually not from the point of trying to escape reality. People can become almost like spiritually addicted to mushrooms, where they're trying to get some sort of spiritual insight. And so they keep taking the mushrooms over and over and whatnot. Like, but in general, they're certainly not like physically addictive. And if anything, they help cure addictions. They will resensitize your brain and reset many different pathways. So if you're
especially the less fun psychedelics, like let's say ayahuasca or iboga.
Exactly. Yeah. So I try. I mean, again, I don't even necessarily like them that much anymore, because they have the potential to like induce some sort of anxiety and paranoia, kind of like, but I try to take them because I know how beneficial they are.
For sure. Mushrooms is very hard for me to.
He doesn't like psychedelics, recognizes the potential negative side effects, but continues to take them because they're so beneficial. You know, again, we need to pray for Connor Murphy's soul. It's really sad. And mind you, he's talking about all this stuff, and he downs like 3 white monsters just back to back to back.
To be like, oh, that's just fun.
Yeah.
It can be in waves, I suppose, but
No.
It's not always. There's always this underlying like, ooh,
yeah,
I don't know, almost
exactly.
unease or like.
Exactly. It can be, the experience is kind of uncomfortable and like alien, and I just haven't done it in a while, but I know there's some emerging research where psilocybin is beneficial for longevity as well. I think it has a lot of beneficial like physiological aspects.
Brian Johnson's like recently got on the magic mushrooms.
Brian Johnson is the guy that's trying to live forever, that's injecting his son's blood. We talked about him and how he just got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease in which his stomach is essentially eating itself. And he brags about spending like $2 million a year trying to reduce his aging, and claims that his physical body is at the age of like a 24 to 18-year-old. He's in the prime of his life. Kind of looks like a vampire. He's very, very pale. Well, they're talking about how Brian Johnson now has been getting into using psilocybin and psychedelic mushrooms.
Yeah.
5-MeO DMT and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as these compounds go, I mean, psychedelics are probably some of the highest leverage substances. It's just, again, there's a potential for like psychosis, you know, you can be totally detached from reality. I mean, and so, and there are degrees to which you can be detached from reality. I mean, I certainly had, you know, like segments of my life when I was overly like grandiose, or, you know, maybe I was a little too uninhibited, a little too detached from other people's opinions, like a little too secure, you know. This is why I think that insecurity,
like lacking that humility, where you kind of, because you need a little bit of that doubt, like, oh, maybe I am full of shit, like, oh, maybe I could be wrong.
Exactly. If you're totally uninhibited, you're going to destroy some of your like social relationships. People aren't going to know how to relate to you. And again, it's like you could just go running like naked in the street. Not that I've done that, but if you just act completely out societal norms, it's going to turn people attracted to the people that don't give a fuck, but kind of like in a balanced way. You can see that they're,
it's like you got to give a fuck, but not too many fucks.
Again, so it's a balance. And so this is why it doesn't make sense when someone calls some like insecure, like, come on, what does it know? There's nuance to that. There's like an optimal level of insecurity, you know?
What was it, a particular psychedelic trip that caused this, whatever you want to call it, this ego trip, psychosis? Well, what would you even call it?
That's the thing. I mean, I don't know. You could call it like a hypomanic episode or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not inherently negative. Like I created some of my best art of like all time during that phase. So it's like you can't classify it inherently as negative or positive. I mean, you know, it's an amazing story. It's like it helped.
At least it was part of your character development that led you.
And I developed all these different characters that I was playing, and it helped the documentary get made like about me, where I played all these different characters. That's where I really started seeing through like the illusion of the self and how we're always playing a character. And I decided to embrace that and play all these different characters. Tried to create this story with all this like hidden meaning and whatnot. And, you know, it's like, it's definitely a little eccentric and hard for people to understand, or even me to understand. But there was a lot of great things that came from it, and it led me to the life that I'm living now. So for me, luckily, I just see it all as a positive. But I mean, that's always a potential of psychedelics, is like, dude, you know, even if you could you could break through to a more real reality, but then you're more dysfunctional in this reality. Like you may be living closer to like some sort of objective truth, but it's just completely dysfunctional within this reality that we're living in. You know what I mean? Like who's to say that the fucking schizophrenic seeing all these hallucinations, what if they're actually closer to objective reality and we're more like living in some sort of mass hallucination? So, you know, it's just, look, it seems like we're playing this biological game as humans, and that's kind of what we're here to do. So you might as well like optimize your role within that game. So you know, you can try to obtain all the spiritual insight you want, but at the end of the day, if it's not helping you live the biological human game, then maybe save that for like another lifetime or something, another plane of existence.
Or go be a monk and live in Tibet or something, you know. But what triggered that? Was it a particular trip, or what? Was
the
it like
first ayahuasca trip I did.
Ayahuasca. Where'd you do ayahuasca?
Joshua Tree, California.
Okay.
Which is exactly where I did ayahuasca. Where, the beginning of this stream was me talking about my experiences and how that ayahuasca ceremony that I went to shut off right in the middle of it. And basically the only message I got was Christ is real. virtue, ethics, morality is the inheritance that I got that made me quote unquote privileged as an individual, and that it was time to grow up and construct. Christ was a carpenter. It was time to build something myself and not just repackage and parrot ideas of Terrence McKenna and Timothy Leary and Robert Anton Wilson and Alan Watts. And the trip shut down, didn't work, didn't even work the next night, where I took 3 more cups of ayahuasca. And that was the last time I ever did psychedelics. And from that point forward, I attended Orthodox churches, and I became a catechumen and joined, the Orthodox Church 7 years ago. And I think of Connor Murphy, 2020, that was just a year before I did my last, psychedelic ayahuasca ceremony. And it shot me in a totally different direction. And that's why I wanted to do this stream, because in so many ways I see myself in the journey of Connor Murphy. It's just, I did all that stuff in my 20s, and God pulled me out of it and drew me towards the Orthodox Church and created this YouTube channel. This YouTube channel exists because I stopped doing all that stuff from that trip. He goes to Joshua Tree and has the exact opposite. He loses everything he has, and he never got out of it.
Yeah. So no, I was just, man, it's pretty an ineffable experience. It's just thrown into the cosmos, and like just higher levels of consciousness that feel more real than reality, like levels of like omniscience that you never thought were possible to like experience, just something so outside of the human experience that makes you totally recontemplate what reality even is. And it's like, if someone experiences that, how are you not going to get like a little excited about reality? You know what I mean? Like, if anyone had that experience, they're going to be a little like manic for a while. It just makes sense. So I think it was totally worth it, because now life is a lot more fun. It feels more like a dream. And so it just took a while to like
sometimes you got to let the pendulum swing the other end, so you can kind of find your bearing.
Yeah,
it's a very common pattern, like, having to meet to some certain extent as well.
Yeah.
You find that you go to that spiritual reality and like, this is the truth. Oh, none of you fucking even know what this is, you kind of get
exactly. So yeah,
I get it.
It can take a little while to integrate, but yeah. I mean, I think it was a total positive, and I'm glad that I went through it.
Yeah.
And so no, it's good.
It's India, because when you integrate those kind of experiences, that's when for sure it's a positive. When unintegrated, then not so bueno.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but
you got to make it good, you know what I mean? Like,
right. But no, that's good, because I'm pretty spiritually fulfilled. I don't really have a desire to do like a deep trip anymore. I want to take psychedelics occasionally for like neuroplasticity, but yeah, I just don't really have that desire that I had, which is good. Like now I can just focus on other things and like playing the human game, which
is what I say all the time. Reality is the real trip.
Yeah.
Which is sad, because remember, his last video looked as if he was in fact on psychedelics. This one right here. We won't watch the whole thing, but
I'm just trying to remind myself, because
you can see how dilated his pupils are, which is so characteristic of tryptamine, whether it be LSD does it, psilocybin. I highly doubt he smoked DMT, but it's possible that he was ingesting ayahuasca.
I'm really high.
And that's the night before he died. That's the night before he died. Here's weird videos. He was with his alter ego, mogging these wax figurines of different celebrities.
Is this a good cycle? NK 10 milligrams and NCLO 6.
And that was part of his like whole natty profile. Like, look at this girl.
Okay, energetic is following baby Allie. Is he a big man? Is he bigger than daddy? Yeah. Okay, energetic is following baby.
So that must be one of Tony Hughes' daughters from his harem, I take it. And so you can go through here and find all these videos, and some of them like specifically talking about Christ and spirituality. I watched a ton of these earlier, so it's hard for me to remember which one's which. just going through and listening to him talk about his spiritual worldview. But all it does is remind me of when I was stuck in this worldview. And I don't know, it's just sad, man. It's really sad. God have mercy on his soul. All right. Bullseye Cowgirl throws in 10, says, thank you. I'm learning a lot from your channel. Well, thank you very much for the support. God bless you, sister. I really appreciate that. And Anthony throws in another $10, says, I don't mean to keep derailing, but it's also if biomaxing is a soft version of eugenics. I could see that. I could potentially see that. I think the alchemy reference earlier was way more apropos, but it's a similar vein of thought for sure. And let me just check over on Dono Chat real quick and see. We got one super chat over on Dono Chat by Sean, throws in $4, says, please pray for me. I have been gambling recently again after years of giving it up. Well, Sean, do give up the gambling, bro. That's not going to lead to anywhere good. There's no reason to be, succumb to gambling and all that different stuff. Yeah, this is goy slop. Yeah, fair enough. My wife says, he says he is God and represents himself as the devil. That's a great point. That's a great point. Otto says, I never crossed the Rubicon on psychedelics. Just know you're doing God's work, keeping it clear out of those pitfalls that we can avoid. And that's my goal today, is not to just make fun of Connor Murphy, not to use his tragedy as an opportunity to, dunk on him and stuff like that. It's really a way to demonstrate that all this spiritual warfare is real, guys. And doing high dose psychedelics is real. It opens you up to these spirits, these noetic entities that can absolutely derail your life. And you see where he's at now. In fact, there was a video. Let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah. Connor Murphy's spiritual nonsense. This is what, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. This is with Tony Hughes. This must be one of Tony Hughes's women in his harem or something. And you can hear Connor Murphy saying the exact same stuff still.
Blindside you with a tough question today.
Oh shit. Okay.
And that is, what is the nature of reality? Why are you here? Who are you? What are you? What is God? Where did we come from?
Oh wow.
See, 2 weeks ago.
I mean, how long do we have? Jesus Christ.
2 weeks ago, and he's wearing Burberry, of a guy who has no ego, who's achieved enlightenment.
Where do I start?
All right, so there's a lot of theories. Is there a certain theory that you subscribe to? Let's say like Catholic religion.
Okay, yeah, that's a good.
For example,
that's a good place to start. Let's reconcile how there are so many different religions. How do you know which one is correct, right? So I do believe, I would say that I stronger than believe that there is this fundamental intelligence that is animating reality, and there are transcendent experiences that people have, and they've had these experiences throughout all of time, throughout all of different cultures. And then when these experiences are filtered through the lens of a specific culture with a specific way of thinking, and it is corrupted by, the human ego.
This is exactly the spirituality and philosophy behind Joseph Campbell. I just covered this yesterday in a sponsored stream by Logo Cinema, talking about the hero's journey and the philosophy behind Joseph Campbell's comparative mythology. This is verbatim what Joseph Campbell was popularizing in the mid-20th century.
Now all of a sudden the output is a particular religion. So all these religions are predicated on these similar transcendent experiences of the one universal fundamental intelligence that we could call God, even though there's a lot of baggage behind that label. And so, yeah, then you get all these different religions. But you have to remember, God, kind of by definition, is infinite, right?
And the human mind is finite. Our ideas are finite. So when people have some sort of conceptualization of God, that's a finite set or amalgamation of interconnected ideas that cannot be God by definition. So people are arguing that they have this right conceptualization of God, but it's an idea in their mind that they're defending that cannot be the entirety of God. So none of these ideas can be correct. Language is limited. God, by definition, is unlimited. So now you might feel like you're watching kind of a screen in front of you and that you're back here behind your head. But you can have an identity.
Shield Faith says, should Candace Owens become Orthodox? Yeah, of course. Everyone who wants the truth should become Orthodox. Anyone who wants the fullness of the Christian faith should become Orthodox. This YouTube channel is promoting apologetics and my own life experience to get people to just go to liturgy. I just want people to go to liturgy, go talk with a priest, go experience the church. And from there, I think God can work on people's hearts. Absolutely. Yeah, Candace Owens has a bunch of crazy stuff I disagree with, but do I hope she becomes Orthodox? Absolutely.
Where all of a sudden you become the entire screen and you're no longer some self behind your head. That's just another like sensation. And all of a sudden your fundamental identity is this like empty intelligence that's behind all of these sensations within your visual field and your body and all the sensory doors, right? And so, yeah, I mean, this isn't something that you really just like come out and tell people because their mind can't even fathom it or grasp it. You have to.
Yeah, I can fathom it. I can grasp it. I used to spout nonsense like this previously. But again, this is the lack of any sort of coherent worldview, because epistemologically, he's not able to make universal truth claims. Because on what metaphysic is he talking about? How can you say that all religions are leading to the same mountaintop? They're just cultural expressions when they, as we talked about in the last stream on the hero's journey and Joseph Campbell, they are diametrically imposed at metaphysical, ontological, epistemological levels. They can't all be the same. They're saying exclusionary claims about each other. And no, it's not like all religions are equal. How can you say one that allows for human sacrifice or one that allows for PDF stuff and one that denies that as immorality and something that can corrupt your soul as being the same thing? They're totally different prescriptions.
Slowly build like a funnel. And that's kind of the idea. Is that's what I tried to do with all my crazy stunts. It's like you build a superficial funnel and then lead them down a path to enlightenment. I think the movie will do a really good job. I hope that that's what they do. They create a funnel, like superficial stuff, like me wearing the penis pump or whatever, or you flaunting your muscles with the girls. But then we start talking about philosophy, and then I start talking about like spiritual, and I started talking about this stuff as well. So that's what we need, is like a funnel to enlighten people, right?
I wish I said more deep things like this in it. I'm afraid that a lot of my content is going to be the superficial, but if you brought the depth to it, then that's excellent.
That's where we ended my interview, is I talked about some of this stuff because we were talking.
This is the interview that we were just watching by your mate Tom. This one right here. That's what they're referring back to.
Talking about the difference between acting and reality. Like,
yeah, no, lockstep. That's what I mentioned earlier in the stream, is that it is amazing when you listen to him talk at other times. He's very articulate. He's quick-witted. Now, his worldview is totally bonkers, and it's part of the reason why he went crazy. And he never gave up on that general psychedelic spirituality, new age worldview. But he is a smart guy. I mean, he went to school for computational mathematics and economics. He was a double major at Southwestern University. He's not a dumb guy, or was not a dumb guy. Yeah. As wrong as he is, he seems pretty coherent.
Playing a character versus being real. And I talked about how, like all the characters are me. What is the self? Like, that's the deepest, most like philosophical question. The answer is God, but like that doesn't mean anything to anyone, because that concept is so distorted through their different levels of conditioning, right? But you essentially are everything. You're the totality of your experience. I mean, you were born into the world a relatively blank slate.
And then you were created through all these experiences, absorbing all this information. You absorb the universe around you. Your parents' ideas, your classmates' ideas, now the different ideas on the internet, all the people you met, everyone you met throughout your life, everything that you experienced, like that is who you are. Like you are the entire universe. You absorbed the entire universe. And so think about it, like me, I'm a fundamental part of your mind. You have memories of me, you have ideas of me, you have associations of me to who you think you are. Like I'm an integral part of your mind. Like we are one, right? We're actually like the same collective hive mind that many people are just unaware of, right? And so that's kind of what I said.
So you have a very high level understanding of the human experience and consciousness, but you have sexual relations with girls and boys that have had surgeries to become girls that are operating a very low level of consciousness, to probably the same ratio as consciousness between a cat or a dog and a human. So how do you reconcile this, Connor, when you're operating at this superior level of consciousness, thinking multidimensional, and you're having these romantic relations with a girl who's operating at a very low level of consciousness? Don't you think that's a little bit of a disparate power, a disparate, you're having sex with animals? Do you find that pleasurable? Do you feel guilty for that? Do you find is it a fetish type thing to have sexual relations with low consciousness biological beings, being in your heightened state connected to God and understanding the universe?
And that's why I try to just have sex with like aliens in the DMT realm. I'm just struggling like meeting them, but
you want to have sex with them, but they don't want to have sex with you.
Well, I just haven't
You're not
been
used
able
to
to
getting rejected. You're so handsome here in the material world on Earth.
Yeah, I know. I just haven't been able to really meet them yet.
You have to figure out what they find attractive too. The mandibulus and the zygomas. Yeah, they might not do so well, and you have to flex your spiritual muscle wherever.
Yeah, but see, I don't necessarily, just because I have some like spiritual insight, I don't put myself above people or see myself above people on some sort of absolute level, right? And I certainly don't like necessarily operate,
because that would be very exploitive of you.
Yeah, exactly. And so no, I mean, in terms of like what spiritual adeptness or whatnot, I suppose I'm on a relative level more insight, but that doesn't necessarily have to affect my relationships. Like I see a lot of my relationships more on just a human level. Like I can operate just from the human ego on a human level, and I can actually have like a fairly like fulfilling and even somewhat complex relationship with someone who isn't even spiritual at all, because there's so many more facets of reality that are just more towards the surface than some sort of deep layer of spirituality. And I can play with that and I can have fun at that level, right? And so, yeah, and it's not like my spiritual abilities, it's not the only reason I could think of where it would be exploitative is if you create a cult and you basically coerce people to have sex with you with some sort of promise of spiritual enlightenment, or with some sort of promise that you are some sort of savior and you're saving them from the apocalypse and they need to join your cult, or else they're going to face some sort of inevitable existential demise. Yeah, there are ways for it to be exploitative, but in my day-to-day life, the vast majority of people I interact with, there aren't even really spiritual undertones. We just kind of operate on the human level. It's like work and business and, oh, what's going on in your like day-to-day like human life, I mean, I golf. Golf is it's a tactile sport where you use your physical body. I mean, I'm just not necessarily always operating on some sort of deep spiritual level.
But when you are operating at a higher level of consciousness as your baseline, and then you're bringing your consciousness down more to the material realm to interact with people, doesn't that kind of feel like a highly intelligent preschool teacher who goes to work every day teaching children, and they're lacking like the intellectual conversations and depth and spiritual awareness as they're interacting with with beings of lower consciousness, and because you kind of get lonely with the higher level of consciousness you get, and having less high level consciousness people to interact with?
Yeah, I mean, there would be something more fulfilling about me and some sort of spiritual community where we talk about these ideas like frequently, and we like help each other
So you guys got a feel for it. I already had to watch this stuff in preparation, so we're going to shut it down there. Again, Lord have mercy on the soul of Connor Murphy. It's really unfortunate, and I hope people learn from really the sad progression of his life from being the top Looksmaxxer, or let me phrase that, the top fitness aesthetic influencer on YouTube from 2015 to 18 to really losing himself. Psychedelics are a bitch. And I just want to remind everyone, don't do drugs, kids. Don't do drugs. Go to liturgy. Find your closest Orthodox church. Talk with a spiritual father. If you're struggling with something, Sean, you're struggling with gambling, go speak about that to a spiritual father. Speak to a priest about it. That's where you're going to find resolution and guidance, So Blink 444 throws in 5. Thank you very much, brother. He says, this felt like a bad trip, which can push a person in the right direction, but it's not fun. Well, I hope so. I hope that this stream and my experiences with psychedelics pushes somebody in the right direction. So anyways, that's going to do it for me, guys. God bless you all. And I will see you all in the next one. As always, until then, God bless. Oh, somebody said Jim Bob's live. Jim Bob's live? Let me see. Oh, yeah. Jay Dyer debate watch party. Okay. I didn't even know Jay Dyer had a debate tonight. Let me send you guys over to Jim. Hey, when you go to Jim Bob, tell him that you came from me. Made by Jim Bob. All right. Thank you, Crispy, for letting me know that Jim Bob was live. So I'm going to send you all over to Jim Bob, my friend. Shout out to Meg Bob and Jim Bob. I love them, and they have a beautiful, beautiful family. So go tell Jim Bob that I sent you. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. As always, until then, God bless.